Chapter 625. Since Master Tsangzhen was working in the Sky Dome realm, Xinghui did not visit him directly. Instead, he made use of the Sky Dome realm's laws to appear outside the External Affairs Hall. The External Affairs Hall was the busiest department in the entire Sky Dome realm. Even though the Sky Dome realm, the Rainbow Sword sect, and the Sword Shadow sect had joined forces and the pressure on them was greatly reduced, there were still many people going back and forth in the hall, asking for instructions on various matters that needed to be handled. Hence, when Xinghui arrived at the External Affairs Hall, there was still a long queue outside the External Affairs Hall. Many high-ranking saints were anxiously waiting for Master Tsangzhen to summon them. When Xinghui appeared, a Golden Core Realm member who was in charge of assisting Master Tsangzhen immediately stood up and bowed respectfully, "Lady Pakhui." After bowing, he quickly added, "Master Tsangzhen has instructed that you can enter directly when you arrive." Xinghui nodded and entered the External Affairs Hall. When the ordinary members of the Sky Dome realm saw this scene, they immediately started whispering, "Who is this important person? Why have I never seen her before?" "Tong Yun, you were in seclusion for a few years previously. You must be ignorant now. This is Lady Pakhui. It is said that she is the direct disciple of Master Zhuzhao. It is said that she is extremely talented and has already cultivated to the Golden Core realm at such a young age. It is only a matter of time before she enters the Divine Ability realm. Her future is limitless." "That's not right. I heard that Lady Pakhui has already derived a divine ability and become an almighty." "Your news must be wrong. Think about it. Lady Pakhui is not even 40 years old. Is it possible for her to become an almighty at 40 years old?" "That's true. Even Sword Master Bai Heng, who is said to be the most talented, took close to 100 years to derive a divine ability. No matter how talented Lady Pakhui is, she can't possibly shorten Sword Master Bai Heng's record by 1 or 2 times. Maybe I remembered wrongly." Amidst all sorts of discussions, Xinghui stepped into the External Affairs Hall. "Pakhui, you're here." In the Foreign Affairs Hall, when Tsangzhen the Venerable saw Xinghui arrive, he immediately put down what he was doing. At the same time, he waved his hand at an Aurus Core Realm cultivator who was reporting to him, "Don't worry, do as you wish. The Divine Ghost sect won't dare to act recklessly in front of us during this period of time." After receiving an accurate answer, the Golden Core Realm man let out a sigh of relief as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. After bowing, he retreated. "Esteemed Lord, have the people from the God's Demons sect arrived yet? Haha, are you in a hurry to get your hands on those 800 Taoist rhymes?" "Don't worry, the people of the Divine Ghost sect are even more anxious than us. After all, this is an expert at the peak of the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth who can step into the divine realm at any time. As early as yesterday, they already sent the Dao-bearing item over and exchanged it for Wang Qiqing. However, when I wanted to inform you yesterday, you were in seclusion, so I didn't disturb you." After Master Tsangzhen finished speaking, he moved his body slightly. "Are you in your courtyard right now? I'll be right there." "No need, I'll go over to visit you." "There's no need to be so formal. Right now, you should focus on your cultivation. Just wait," Master Tsangzhen said. He was still working here, but his original body in the encampment was already rushing towards Xinghui's courtyard at an extremely fast speed. Not long after, he arrived outside the courtyard where Xinghui was cultivating in seclusion. "The Dao-bearing items with 800 Taoist rhymes are all here." Master Tsangzhen waved his hand, and a dozen huge boxes that were 1 meter tall immediately filled Xinghui's courtyard. "Check them. Esteemed Lord is personally in charge of the transaction, so I naturally trust you." Xinghui smiled and put all the Dao-bearing items into his personal space in one go. "You'd better stay calm for a period of time and properly deduce your divine ability. Study your divine ability to the extreme and come in contact with the world of laws early. Your divine ability is related to speed. If you feel that comprehending the laws is too slow, you might as well buy some heavenly treasures of speed. Who knows, it might be helpful for you to supplement your divine ability and verify the laws with your divine ability." "I'll think about it." Xing Hui nodded and asked at the same time, "How's esteemed Zhu Zhao's situation?" Master Songzhen smiled faintly. The Divine Ghost sect is really generous. They exchanged a lot of innate divinity from the divine wilderness. With these innate divinity, esteemed Zhu Zhao's domain origin has stopped collapsing and has even recovered. However, his injuries have dragged on for too long. If he wants to rely on his own recovery ability to recover, it will take more than a few years. During this period, he still can't fight with others. He'll be fine. We'll also think of ways to collect more innate divinity to help esteemed Zhu Zhao recover sooner. I hope so. Master Songzhen nodded. During this period of time, me, Yuan Ri, and the others all rushed to the 30th level of the Primal Chaos Divine Palace. Unfortunately, the probability of innate divinity being born in the Primal Chaos Divine Palace is too low. We wasted a lot of Taoist divinity for nothing. Xing Hui expressed his understanding. There was too much randomness in the Primal Chaos Treasure Pavilion. It was not easy to buy something that was completely suitable for oneself. All right, I won't disturb your cultivation. Although I think that ordinary people need a few hundred years to reach perfection from the transcendent realm, we have always had high hopes for you. I've made a bet with esteemed Firmament that you'll reach perfection in 5 years. Don't let me down. 5 years? Transcendent realm, huh? The so-called perfection of transcendent realm was, in fact, the realm where one's transcendent realm resonated with the laws of nature. Cultivate well. Try to cultivate in seclusion for 5 years. When you come out of seclusion, your cultivation will reach perfection and shock the firmament. Esteemed Master Songzhen was in a good mood. After patting Xing Hui on the shoulder, he left with a smile. After watching esteemed Master Songzhen leave, Xing Hui returned to his cultivation room. He looked at the newly obtained 800 Taoist rhyme items in his personal space and shifted his gaze to the Sun of Chaos interface. However, just as he was about to place these items in the Sun of Chaos interface, he paused. I've been cultivating for more than half a year. I wonder if any new treasures have appeared in the Primal Chaos Treasure Pavilion. With this thought in mind, he shifted his gaze to the Primal Chaos Treasure Pavilion at the edge of his personal space. Unfortunately, the Primal Chaos Treasure Pavilion was as usual. Just as everyone had said before, there was no pattern to speak of. Shaking his head, Xing Hui turned to leave. Just as he was about to leave, he seemed to have thought of something. Wait a minute. Perhaps I can think of it differently. When my chaos level rose from the 44th to the 45th level, the Primal Chaos Treasure Pavilion changed from 10 items to 30 items. If I reach the 60th level and the Primal Chaos Treasure Pavilion's consumption increases, will the items produced increase from 30 items to 100 items? If the number of treasures in the Primal Chaos Treasure Pavilion really reached 100, then the range of choices would be much larger. The probability of the birth of innate divine charms would also increase by several times. Even if he failed, he would only lose 100 Taoist rhymes. 100 treasures of heaven and earth. No matter what, there would be many treasures that could be resold and sold for extremely high profits. As long as his luck wasn't too bad, he could even make a profit. Thinking of this, Xing Hui couldn't help but shift his gaze back to his chaos level. 52nd level, 800 Taoist rhymes. Just right. Xing Hui's gaze paused on his chaos level for a moment. As the 100-year-old Taoist rhymes dissipated, his chaos level directly rushed to the 53rd level. At the 53rd level, the buff brought by the chaos level was naturally used on his comprehension. However, this was just the beginning. His chaos level stopped at the 53rd level for a moment before it rushed to the 54th level. Correspondingly, his comprehension attribute increased to the 7th level. Then, at the 55th level, 56th level, 57th level, his comprehension attribute increased to the 8th level, the 9th level, and the peak, the 10th level. Throughout the entire process, Xing Hui didn't even pay close attention to the brand new attribute derived from the 55th level. He directly pushed his comprehension attribute to the 10th level, which represented the peak. The moment his comprehension attribute rushed to the 10th level, Xing Hui clearly felt that there seemed to be some kind of magical change in his spiritual world. The entire world gradually changed before his eyes. Compared to before, the clarity and speed of his thoughts were almost incomparable. The Ash's secret skill, Thorn's secret skill, and Eternal Light's secret skill, which were originally difficult to comprehend and integrate, gave birth to countless ideas as the spark of inspiration blossomed. Almost 2 hours after his comprehension attribute increased to the 10th level, he had already cultivated the Ash's secret skill and Thorn's secret skill to the small success level. At the same time, they were perfectly integrated into his sword essence. For a moment, his brilliant sword essence, regardless of whether it was the blazing intent or the sharp intent that burst out, had all risen greatly compared to before. If the previous him wanted to rely on his sword essence to kill an expert in the Golden Elixir realm, then now, even those almighties who had already cultivated the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth would not be able to turn a blind eye to his sword essence. Some ordinary almighties with weaker spiritual energy might even be killed by his sword essence on the spot. The effect brought about by the spark of inspiration is really remarkable, especially when I raised my comprehension attribute from the 5th level to the 10th level in one go. The spark of inspiration accumulated from 5 levels of comprehension and exploded together. The effect is many times stronger than raising my comprehension attribute time and time again. This is because I have not cultivated the spiritual method and the utilization of my spiritual energy is too low. If I use the spiritual method to refine my sword essence and make it more condensed, then by relying on the full power of my sword essence, I might even be able to kill an existence in the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth. Tsing Hui sensed the spark of inspiration gradually dissipating, and his comprehension attribute returned to normal. The effects brought about by the chaotic grades still surprised him. He made good use of the time and cultivated for another 2 hours. Only when the spark of inspiration had completely vanished did Qing Su focus his attention on his chaotic level again. The Son of Chaos had already advanced to the 57th level, and he was looking forward to what kind of characteristics would be born at the 55th level. Everyone, follow along with the wave of explosion. Chapter 626. Light Mirror Technique? Qing Su looked at the name of the special characteristic, and very soon, he understood the basic uses of the special characteristic. He didn't know if this technique was good or bad. Judging from its name, the light mirror technique seemed to be a secret technique for spying, but in fact, this was the same for the Son of Chaos interface. It was a secret technique for spying. The light mirror technique's characteristic was that it could deduce a certain scene that had occurred in a certain area and reread it. That was all. However, this kind of rereading of a certain scene in a certain area wasn't the usual rereading, but rather, reproducing a scene that had already occurred in the long river of time. To put it simply, this secret technique could observe anything that had happened in the past within a certain area. The level of the technique determined the duration of the observation. The first level light mirror technique could only observe things that had happened in a certain area within a year. The cooldown time wasn't long, and was the same as the appraisal technique, which was 1 day. If I add this technique to the deduction technique and the appraisal technique, I can directly change my profession to detective. Tsing Hui shook his head. This technique was obviously only effective when it was needed. When it wasn't needed, it was simply useless and had no effect on increasing his strength. Wait a minute. Tsing Hui seemed to have thought of something and was shocked. Observe things that had happened in the past within a certain area? If this technique can be observed continuously along the long river of time, doesn't that mean I can even rely on this technique to reproduce the mysterious runes of the Fortune Mainland's transmission divine array? If he could reproduce those runes, how long would it take to return to Earth? Perhaps, this trait was indeed of little value and would not increase one's strength at all. But, however, to Qing Su, this was the trait that he needed the most. His gaze immediately fell on the divine technique that had been upgraded to the 6th level. A moment later, his gaze shifted again and fell on the light mirror technique. His chaos level had already reached the 57th level, and he couldn't afford to waste any of the levels. Let's go to the Fortune Mainland and ask first. Tsing Hui immediately entered the Chaos Temple's personal space. Huang Xiaolong's personal space was extremely vast, and it was specially divided into numerous regions. In one of these regions, the Son of Chaos on the Fortune mainland would stop at any time. When Tsing-Hui arrived, an unfamiliar Son of Chaos was waiting here. When he learned that Tsing-Hui wanted to ask about the progress of the restoration of the mysterious formation, the Son of Chaos immediately retreated. Before long, Sikong Ming, who had become a Son of Chaos after being bestowed with the Chaos method by Tsing-Hui, and the sect master of the Scorching Heaven sect, Rockheart, appeared at the same time and bowed respectfully. Sikong Ming, how's the restoration of those divine imprints coming along? Do you have clear data? Replying to Milord, we've almost completely restored these divine runes, and we've even reached the stage where we can experiment with them. Give us another 3 months. As long as Milord prepares spatial crystals and uses spatial energy, we'll be able to activate them in one go. Have you confirmed the use of that divine pattern array? This, we can't be completely sure, but it should be similar to what we've guessed. It's either a transmission array or an entrance to a secret realm. Sikong Ming paused for a moment before continuing. If we have some spatial crystals, we can try to test it out. The possibility of that being the case is higher. Spatial crystals. Tsing-Hui shook his head. It seems like he had to place his hopes on the Chaos Treasure Pavilion. All right, you can leave, Tsing-Hui said and looked at Rockheart. Is everything all right on the Fortune mainland? Replying to Milord, the Fortune mainland is relatively peaceful, but because Milord hasn't appeared for some time, the people from the various superpowers have become restless. Even though they didn't show it on the surface, they secretly slandered Milord's reputation, saying that Milord is the biggest devil on the Fortune mainland, and that Milord wants to lead the Fortune mainland to destruction. Devil? Ching Su sneered. Looks like they still have some extravagant hopes in their hearts. All right, go and collect information. Find out who's behind this. When I have time, I'll go to the Fortune mainland again and capture all of them in one fell swoop. Yes, Milord. Go. Tsing-Hui waved his hand and left the area. It seems like I really need to nurture some loyal subordinates, otherwise, I won't be able to govern all the territories I've occupied. As he thought about it, Tsing-Hui quickly shifted his attention to the Son of Chaos interface. Since he was confident about the Fortune mainland, he would temporarily put the matter of the light mirror technique aside. After all, based on the observable range of the light mirror technique, the first level could only observe the events of the past year, the second level could observe for 10 years, the third level could observe for 100 years, and the fourth level could only observe for 1,000 years. The Purple Firmament Palace had obtained the Fortune Divine Jade Fragment for thousands of years. If he really wanted to observe the mysterious formation and the complete appearance of the cave through the light mirror technique, he would need to raise the light mirror technique to the 5th level. But now, he was already a Son of Chaos at the 57th level, and the remaining 2 levels were not enough for him to raise the light mirror technique to the 5th level. Unfortunately, 2 levels of Son of Chaos can't even raise the divine technique. Tsing-Hui's gaze swept over his various attributes. The deduction technique was only at the 2nd level, and it was not yet at the 5th level to undergo a qualitative change, not to mention the transformation technique. As for the backtracking technique, it had already undergone a mutation once, and it was still far from the 2nd mutation to the 10th level. After weighing the pros and cons, Tsing-Hui decided to follow his original plan and raise the divine technique. At this thought, his gaze focused on the chaos level. Soon, it reached the 58th level, and paused for a moment before reaching the 59th level. The 59th level of chaos allowed him to raise the divine technique to the 8th level, and the cooldown time was reduced to less than a week. The 66th level of chaos, and the Chaos Treasure Pavilion has undergone a 2nd mutation. I hope it won't disappoint me. Sweeping his gaze over the remaining 100 level Dao items, Tsing-Hui did not hesitate and added them. Rumble. At the same time that Tsing-Hui raised the chaos level to the 60th level, the chaotic void outside his personal space suddenly underwent a drastic change. The area outside his personal space was originally a hazy, chaotic land of fog, but now that he had raised the chaos level to the 60th level, the chaotic color that pervaded the periphery of his personal space seemed to have been completely dispelled, and a vast and resplendent starry sky was born. The starry sky was vast and boundless, and one could not see the end of it at a glance. In this starry sky, countless stars twinkled, and countless star clusters circled around. Some of the star clusters were even intertwined with each other, emitting a dazzling radiance. The diameter of each star cluster was tens of millions of light-years, and one could not help but marvel at the majestic and vast creation. Indeed, there's quite a change. Sing Hui mumbled to himself. Then, his spirit impatiently flew out of his personal space and entered the Chaos Treasure Pavilion that was suspended in the starry sky outside his personal space. The moment he entered the Chaos Treasure Pavilion, Sing Hui understood the consumption of Tao items when the Chaos Treasure Pavilion was activated. It was not the 5 Taoist rhymes that he had guessed, but 10 Taoist rhymes. 10 Taoist rhymes a day. This was a number that would cause one to despair. 10 Taoist rhymes a day, that would be 3,650 Taoist rhymes a year. With this number, not to mention organizations like Celestial Vault, Sword Intent, and Grand Supreme, even Heavenly Tao, Eternal, and Divine Wilderness would go bankrupt from this terrifying consumption. Unless it's those supreme beings who occupy an entire world, otherwise, raising the chaos level to above the 60th level? Don't even think about it. Sing Hui shook his head. With a hint of heartache, he focused his gaze on the many frozen walls in the Chaos Treasure Pavilion. When he saw the number of frozen walls in the Chaos Treasure Pavilion, his expression changed slightly. Not 100. The number of treasures supplied by the Chaos Treasure Pavilion has dropped to 10 again. He was a little surprised by this result. However, considering that the activation of the 60th level Chaos Treasure Pavilion would consume 5 times more than the 45th level, Sing Hui patiently looked at the first frozen wall carefully. The originator? Sing Hui frowned slightly as he looked at the object that looked like a ball of air in the middle of the frozen wall. There was a huge problem with the Chaos Treasure Pavilion, which was that it only provided the name of the item. As for its functions and characteristics, it did not provide any information. One could only rely on the buyer's own judgment to determine its value. For example, although Sing Hui knew the name of the item in front of him, he did not know what it was used for. This item isn't recorded in the Chaos Treasure Pavilion Encyclopedia. The Chaos Treasure Pavilion Encyclopedia has detailed records of all the items that have appeared in the Chaos Treasure Pavilion over the past tens of thousands of years. Even the most unpopular items are recorded in the Chaos Treasure Pavilion. Could this so-called originator be a newly spawned item? Sing Hui looked at it for a moment before continuing to walk towards the second ice wall. It was best not to come into contact with things that he did not know the depth of. He remembered that in the history of the Divine Wilderness 3,000 years ago, there was a first-rate faction that had more than 10 almighty figures. They had bought a plant of unknown origin from the Chaos Treasure Pavilion. They thought that the plant was some sort of treasure, but when they bought it, they realized that it was a plant-type divine state creature. In the end, the faction was almost completely destroyed by the plant. It was only when a nearby divine state expert arrived that the plant was destroyed. The second ice wall was an existence that resembled a gemstone. However, the gemstone did not have any color or luster. It did not look like a high-end product at all, serene stone. Sing Hui rubbed his glabella. He understood that this was another item that he could not see through. What kind of strange things are produced in the 60th level Chaos Treasure Pavilion? Not daring to act rashly, he had no choice but to look at the third item. The third item, he recognized it. The blood of the Kuan Peng. However, when he looked at the blood of the Kuan Peng, his consciousness rapidly sank into the droplet of blood. At that moment, the droplet of blood was no longer just blood. Instead, it had turned into a complicated world of space. Every single red blood cell seemed to contain a space, and every single platelet contained a piece of land. Countless spaces, lands, and living beings stacked together, forming a vast world. It caused him to sink into the majesty and vastness of the world. Until this world suddenly disappeared. When Sing Hui abruptly awoke from this vast and majestic world, he suddenly realized that the Chaos Treasure Pavilion had returned to its original appearance. The periphery of his personal space was no longer a vast starry sky. Instead, it had become a piece of chaos. It was blurry, as if it was covered by a layer of fog. It turned out that unknowingly his chaos level had fallen to 59th level. Chapter 627. My chaos rank dropped? To ensure my safety, I've always left more than 50 Taoist rhymes in the Son of Chaos template. Even if the Chaos Treasure Pavilion consumes 10 Taoist rhymes a day, it should be able to last for 5 days. But Sing Hui was stunned. But in the next moment he seemed to have thought of something, and his expression changed drastically. As if to prove the thought in his heart, his consciousness quickly returned to his body and directly appeared outside the cultivation room. Without waiting for the attendant outside the cultivation room to salute, he impatiently asked, "How long have I been in seclusion this time?" The guard did not dare to hide anything and hurriedly said, 5 days ago, when Master Songjin came to visit, you came out once. This time, you've been in seclusion for 5 days. 5 days. 5 days. 5 days had already passed. For a moment, Sing Hui could not help but feel a chill from the bottom of his heart. A drop of blood was able to immerse his mind, and 5 days had passed without him noticing. This definitely can't be the blood of a divine Kuan Peng. Even if it's a Kuan Peng that can create worlds with a single thought, a drop of its blood, even if it's not blood essence, wouldn't be able to immerse my consciousness in it for 5 days. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that my primal chaos level dropped and the primal chaos treasure pavilion closed, my consciousness would probably continue to sink until I died. Sing Hui thought of how terrifying that drop of blood was and could almost conclude, this is the blood of a chaos creature above the divine realm. When the chaos treasure pavilion opened on level 30, the items that could be exchanged were either divine realm or related to the divine realm. Even items that had little to do with the divine realm, such as void understanding grass and primordial spirit chi, would be helpful to divine realm experts. It was just a matter of how effective they were. At level 45, although the items sold in the Chaos Treasure Pavilion were still limited to the divine realm, their quality and quantity had all increased by a large margin. Some ordinary items could be sold in 10 sets at a time, greatly increasing the effects of cultivation for divine realm experts. As for level 60, it was not an increase in the number of treasures, but a jump from the divine realm to the chaos realm. The treasures on display in the treasure pavilion began to correspond to the chaos realm. Phew! Sing Hui let out a long breath. Above the divine realm was the chaos realm. It was suspected that the creator of the chaos temple was a chaos dominator. When I saw the third item, the blood of Kuan Peng, my consciousness was already immersed in it. I don't even know what the other few chaotic realm treasures are. No matter what they are, as long as I can buy any treasure that I can use, it will be a huge boost to my cultivation. Thinking of this, Sing Hui immediately projected his consciousness into the Hunyuan Trade Association and found Blazing Glory, who was currently overseeing the trade association. Without waiting for Blazing Glory to bow, Sing Hui asked impatiently, "Have you sold the resources from the Black Flame sect?" "It has already been sold." A total of 414 Taoist aura items were sold. They are placed in the Divine Grace Chamber of Commerce of the Hidden Sword sect. Does my lord need them now? That's right, I will arrive at the Hidden Sword sect in 2 hours. With that, Sing Hui left the Chaos Temple and adjusted his condition. Fortunately, although his consciousness was almost dragged into the Chaos Temple by the blood of Kuan Peng, he was still in the Chaos Temple. Even a chaotic realm existence would be greatly suppressed in the Chaos Temple. Although Sing Hui had been trapped in the Chaos Temple for 5 days, his spirit was not damaged. It was just that his spirit was a little weak. After 2 hours of recuperation, he recovered to his original state. After recovering, he did not waste any more time and directly used the backtrack skill and the incarnation skill to arrive at the Hidden Sword sect. In the Divine Grace Chamber of Commerce of the Hidden Sword sect, President Su Xiao, Su Tong, and his disciple Su Yuan were already waiting there when they received the news. When they saw Sing Hui arrive, they quickly greeted him enthusiastically, "Supreme Elder." Sing Hui nodded at them. "Where is it?" "Supreme Elder, please take a look." Su Xiao immediately took out the Dao-carrying object, which was worth 414 Dao rhymes, from her personal space. Very good. Qing Su nodded. After a moment of thought, he directly engraved the 9 chapters of the Forging Soul technique onto a jade talisman and passed it to Su Yuan. You may be my disciple, but I really haven't given you too much guidance. When you cultivate from now on, you should properly practice this technique. I believe it'll be of great help to you. Many thanks, Master. Su Yuan respectfully accepted the 9 chapters of the Forging Spirit technique from Tsing Hui. Cultivate well. If you have a unique understanding of this technique, you may be able to walk a completely different path of cultivation. This technique is precious and must not be taught to outsiders. As Qing Su said that, he could not help but think of the Xia Empire. The lifespans of the people in that empire were not very long, but the best among them could use a few hundred years to strengthen their souls, allowing them to rely on the power of their souls to possess the terrifying battle prowess to contend against saints and even suppress void transformation experts. If Su Yuan really could combine the 9 chapters of the Forging of the Soul technique and master this mental cultivation method, his future accomplishments would indeed be limitless. Thank you, Master, for the technique. Su Yuan once again bowed deeply to Tsing Hui. Tsing Hui nodded. His clone disappeared and directly left. The hidden sword continent could be said to be calm at present. Even if there were some small waves occasionally, the power of the hidden sword sect could easily suppress them. There was no need for Tsing Hui to be stationed here at all times. After replenishing more than 400 Taoist aura items, Tsing Hui did not care about wasting them. He once again focused his attention on the chaos level. As the number 59 blurred, his chaos level had once again rushed to the 60th level. This time he was fully prepared. He did not immediately rush to the Chaos Treasure Pavilion. Instead, he first looked at the characteristics derived from the 60th level of the chaos level. Dimensional lock? Tsing Hui carefully tasted it. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. Leave a coordinate and you can return to the reserved coordinate within 24 hours. The cooldown time is 1 month. This characteristic was somewhat similar to the backtrack skill. However, the backtrack skill could only backtrack one's own state. The dimensional lock, on the other hand, targeted a very wide range. No matter where he was, even if he was lost in the space turbulence, as long as he used the dimensional lock to leave a coordinate here, after 24 hours, his original body could still break through the void and return to the location of the dimensional lock. Moreover, this characteristic could be said to be a perfect match for the backtrack skill. The dimensional lock could only allow a person to return to the location left behind by the dimensional lock. Once the person died, everything would naturally disappear. However, the backtrack skill could allow a person to return from the state of death to the state before death. In this way, if he used the dimensional lock in a safe place, followed by the backtrack skill. This was true immortality. It was much safer than the so-called immortality tactic. Unfortunately, this is the 60th level characteristic. I am destined to not be able to use it in the short term. Tsing Hui shook his head and cast his attention back to the Chaos Treasure Pavilion. In the Chaos Treasure Pavilion, the first treasure was still the originator, the second was the Abyssal Stone. He did not know the use of these 2 treasures, and the third was the blood of the Kuan Peng. Tsing Hui glanced at it and quickly retracted his gaze. At the same time, he cautiously looked at the 4th item. Solid Star Stone. He did not understand. Tsing Hui rubbed between his eyebrows. The Chaos Realm is too high a level for me now. Even during the most glorious period of the ancient divine wilderness, the number of great beings in the Chaos Realm was extremely rare, much less than the number of divine realm beings now. Every creature in the Chaos Realm is a great being that transcends the divine wilderness. They do not need to use the 2-realm flying ship and can travel through the vast chaos void on their own. They may know the name and effect of something useful to them, but I definitely do not know. After pondering for a moment, Tsing Hui finally tried to use the appraisal skill on the Solid Star Stone. Fortunately, the appraisal skill did not disappoint him. The Solid Star Stone could change the characteristics of a star and strengthen it. The name was similar to its effect, strengthening a star. The effect was not weak, but what did it have to do with him? Even if he bought the solid star stone, it would not be easy for him to sell it. Appraisal skill, cooldown time, 1 day. Qing Su glanced at the appraisal technique before glancing at the many treasures that he was basically unable to identify on the wall of ice. He felt his head ache. I can only ask the Firmament Master. The Firmament Master is knowledgeable, and he has excavated ancient dwellings more than once. He should have some understanding of treasures beyond the Saint Realm at least. Thinking of this, he looked at the remaining items one by one. Flash Gold, Darkness Crystal, Divine Transformation Fruit. I recognize this. Living Soil, but I don't know if it is the same as the legendary Living Soil. Even if it is the same, it is useless. Living Soil is just soil that can grow directly. However, this Wood Origin Pearl and the Leaf of the World Tree seem to be quite extraordinary. I will try again when the appraisal skill is off cooldown. Xing Hui memorized the names of these items one by one. After that, he looked at the prices of these items. What made him feel strange was that these items were not expensive. Although they were at least 100 Taoist rhymes, other than the originator, the prices did not exceed 4 digits, including the Leaf of the World Tree. It seems that these items are not considered high-end items in the chaotic realm. It is similar to the Primordial Spirit Chi, which is worth 10 Taoist rhymes, in the Chaos Treasure Pavilion. Xing Hui glanced at them and did not think too much. He left his personal space and entered the Firmament Realm, heading toward the courtyard where the Firmament Master was. Although he was in the Firmament Master's residence, he was not used to looking for the Firmament Master directly. Xing Hui, you're here. Have a seat. The Firmament Master greeted Xing Hui warmly when he saw him. Haha, have you received Song Zhen's Dao-carrying items? You should make good use of them. It would be best if you could purchase some treasures related to speed. This should be of great help to you in perfecting your remarkable power. I'll think about it. Xing Hui was naturally embarrassed to say that he had spent all the Dao-carrying items. Master, I read an ancient book not long ago. The ancient book recorded the names of several precious treasures, but I have never heard of these treasures. Have you heard of them? Oh, what are they? Tell me about them. The ancient book recorded the originator, the abyssal stone, the lightning time gold, the dark crystal, the divine transformation fruit, the living soil, the wood origin orb, and the world tree. The Firmament Master's expression changed when he heard Xing Hui. The originator, the divine transformation fruit, the world tree? Where did you see these supreme treasures? It's just an ancient book whose depth is unknown. Have you heard of them? I don't dare to talk about other things, but the great origin, the divine transformation fruit, and the world tree are all legendary treasures. Once they appear in the world, I'm afraid even supreme existences in the primal chaos realm will go crazy over them. These are supreme treasures that lead directly to the primal chaos. Lead directly to the chaotic realm. When Qing Su heard that, he no longer doubted his earlier guess. Indeed, after the 60th level of the chaotic realm, the treasures in the Chaotic Treasure Pavilion were no longer Divine Realm cultivation treasures but Chaotic Realm treasures. Above the Divine Realm was the Chaotic Realm, which was said to be the supreme chaotic realm that had created countless chaotic divine palaces. Chapter 628. Then what are the originator, the divine change fruit, and the world tree? Xing Hui asked impatiently. A look of fascination flashed across Firmament Master's eyes. These are all things from the ancient times. They are even legendary, especially the world tree. Even in the ancient times, rumors only revealed the tip of the iceberg. This ancient tree is said to be a great existence that supports a world. Its nature far exceeds the imagination of those at the peak of the divine realm, or even those at the peak of the divine realm who can create a world with a thought. A legend of legends? Firmament Master nodded. The world tree was a legend in the ancient times. I don't know anything else. I only know that in the ancient times, there was a divine realm giant who could dominate the world. He obtained a leaf from the world tree by chance and easily stepped into the realm of creating a world with a thought. A leaf from the world tree allowed him to easily step into the realm of creating a world with a thought. Sing Hui's eyes suddenly widened. That's right, creating a world with a thought. I told you that there are 4 major difficulties in creating a world with a thought: constructing a world, delimiting objects, void crystals, and the evolution of rules. The 10th order personal space can make the first and 4th steps easier for cultivators, but the 2nd and 3rd steps are still not easy for them. The 3rd step, especially, requires a huge amount of void crystals. The preciousness of these void crystals is almost equivalent to the innate divine aura of our divine realm. In the ancient times, many mighty figures who dominated the world had no choice but to venture into the chaotic starry skies to collect void crystals. But as long as you have a leaf from the world tree, the most difficult step for many people, the void crystals won't be a problem. Then what are the divine change fruit and the originator? I'll talk about the divine change fruit first. The divine change fruit has no use for us human cultivators. It's mainly used by sacred beasts, or sacred beasts at the 6th divine realm. You should know that the upper limit of a sacred beast's growth is the divine realm, right? Even among the 6 divine realms, it's not easy to break through the shackles of the divine realm. Sing Hui suddenly thought of something. He asked in surprise, the divine change fruit can help sacred beasts break through the upper limit of their growth? That's right. Based on a sacred beast's final potential, the divine transformation fruit can make sacred beasts that can only reach the peak of saint become chaotic creatures at most. It makes it easier for the 6 saints, who already have a chance of becoming chaotic creatures, to become chaotic creatures. Even for divine beasts, the divine transformation fruit has decent benefits. It's just not as obvious as a sacred beast's. As a result, the appearance of a divine transformation fruit can cause countless sacred beasts at the peak of saint to engage in a desperate battle. When Tsing Hui heard this, he was once again amazed by the value of the treasures sold by the Primal Chaos Treasure Pavilion after the Chaos level reached level 60. Of these 3 items, the one with the highest value to us human cultivators, or perhaps to all saint cultivators, is the originator. Master Tsongqiong said, "You should understand that the strength and lifespan of a world with thought cultivator is closely related to their own world. As long as their world doesn't collapse, they will be immortal. The most important thing for a world with thought cultivator is to continuously collect void crystals to repair and strengthen their own world. However, as long as a world with thought cultivator has a portion of the originator, everything will not be a problem. This, to put it another way, you can understand the originator as an energy converter. It can collect chaos vital energy and continuously replenish the world of a world with thought cultivator, thus ensuring that the world doesn't collapse." Master Tsongqiong sighed as he said this. For any invincible being who has just entered the chaotic realm, the originator is the most valuable divine item. Even the leaves of the world tree and the divine transformation fruit are not worth 1/100th, 1,000th, or even 1/10,000th of the value of the originator. When Tsing Hui heard this, he vaguely had an idea in his mind. Is the originator useful to us cultivators? Of course. Of course, as I said before, the originator is an energy converter. Any practitioner can refine the originator as long as they have formed a domain. It can help you absorb energy from the chaotic void and replenish your body. The chaotic energy absorbed by the originator is miraculous. Not only does it have the effect of maintaining the stability of the world, but it also has unimaginable effects for Saint Realm practitioners. For example, it can strengthen the origin of the domain, or when you shatter the void and travel through space, the energy absorbed by the originator can strengthen the domain, withstand the spatial storms, or strengthen your own divine true body. Master Tsongqiong's eyes were filled with emotion as he said this. The originator is known as a supreme divine item in the eyes of all Saint Realm cultivators. It's not a joke. When Tsing Hui heard Master Tsongqiong's words, his breathing became slightly sluggish. However, due to the high value of the originator, it can often lead to the creation of a world with a single thought, or even a life and death battle between supreme existences in the chaos realm. Therefore, if a cultivator below the realm of the creation of a world with a single thought possesses the originator, It's almost like a child carrying gold through a busy market. It's completely a road to death. Master Tsang Qiong seemed to have thought of something and then shook his head. Even in the ancient times when our divine wilderness era was at its peak, the originator was a near-legendary existence. There's no point in telling you this. In short, you only need to know that for any Saint Realm cultivator, the originator can be exchanged with anything except life. I understand. Xing Hui divided a part of his mind and glanced at the Chaos Treasure Pavilion. The price of the originator was very high, 1,200 Dao rhymes. It would not be easy for him to buy it with his personal wealth. Considering the current situation of Master Zhu Zhao, Xing Hui made a decision in his heart. Master, you should know that my chaos level is very high, right? That's right. I heard you say that your chaos level has reached the 44th level. Master Tsang Qiong was very intelligent. When he heard Xing Hui mention this and asked about the use of the top heaven and earth treasures, he suddenly thought of something and his expression changed. You raised your chaos level to the 45th level, and new treasures were born in the Chaos Treasure Pavilion? That's right. Xing Hui nodded seriously. And among the new treasures, there's a originator. A originator. Master Tsang Qiong's breathing suddenly stopped when he heard Xing Hui's words. In the next moment, he suddenly stood up and could not help but take a step forward. He stared at Xing Hui in disbelief. Xing Hui, what did you say? A originator? A originator has been refreshed in your Chaos Treasure Pavilion? The most precious divine item in the hearts of all the supreme existences in the divine realm and even the chaos realm? Xing Hui met Master Tsang Qiong's gaze and nodded seriously. His strength was already at the top of the world. Even if he exposed his chaos level, he might still be able to protect himself. Moreover, he was using his chaos level of 45th level as a cover. That's right. A originator has indeed been refreshed in my Chaos Treasure Pavilion. Buy. But, Xing Hui, hurry up and buy it. A originator. A originator. He had to buy it at all costs. If you can get a originator, any divine realm expert's future cultivation will be smooth. Master Tsang Qiong said excitedly. To buy this originator, you need a total of 1,200 Taoist aura items. However, I don't have enough Taoist aura items on me. Xing Hui said. In fact, he also wanted the originator. However, according to Master Tsang Qiong, the originator could only be refined by experts who had condensed a domain. In other words, one had to be at least in the divine realm to use it. Even if he really gathered 1,200 Taoist aura and bought the originator, he would have to wait until he had condensed a domain before he could use it. Therefore, it was better to let Master Tsang Qiong invest in buying the originator first. After all, every day the Chaos Treasure Pavilion was open, it would cost 10 Taoist aura. This number was unbearable for Xing Hui, who planned to accumulate the Taoist aura in the Fortune Jade and try to activate it after 1,000 points. 1,200 Taoist rhymes of Taoist rhymes? A portion of the Grand Essence only required 1,200 Taoist rhymes worth of Tao-carrying items? Buy it without hesitation. Xing Hui, do you not have enough Taoist aura items on you? I, Master Tsang Qiong, am willing to buy the originator with 1,500 Taoist aura items. The remaining 300 Taoist aura items will be your profit from the sale. That's not necessary. Master Tsang Qiong can just give me 1,200 Taoist aura items. Xing Hui paused for a moment. Taking out 1,200 Taoist aura items will put a lot of pressure on Master Tsang Qiong's Taoist aura reserves. Pressure? Yes, it is. However, the Heavenly Tao no longer intends to fight the war of chaos with Master Tsang Qiong, so the pressure has lessened. Moreover, in the face of our originator, Master Tsang Qiong will not hesitate to use up all our Taoist aura reserves temporarily. Master Tsang Qiong, have you decided who to give the originator to? Xing Hui asked. Master Tsang Qiong was slightly taken aback by this question. Then, his expression changed and he hesitated. If it was an ordinary treasure, Master Tsang Qiong could naturally maintain his magnanimity as the leader of Master Tsang Qiong. However, The originator was a priceless treasure to any divine realm cultivator. It was really, after a long while, Master Songqiong suppressed his greed and said in a deep voice, "The originator can absorb chaotic yuan qi from the chaotic void and convert it into the cultivator's power. This power is effective on domain origins, divine true gods, and world creation. At present, the one who needs this originator the most is Zhu Zhao. With this originator, Zhu Zhao will not only be able to recover in a short time, but she will also be able to rely on the originator's power to continuously replenish herself and cultivate to the peak of the domain realm. Then, when the conditions are right, she will naturally step into the void transformation realm. Therefore, I'll give this originator to Zhu Zhao." Master Songqiong seemed to have used up a lot of willpower to make this decision. After he finished speaking, he was actually panting slightly. Xinghui looked at Master Songqiong and was somewhat impressed by his decision. According to Master Songqiong, this was a supreme treasure that could make a world creation realm go crazy. However, Master Songqiong was selfless enough to give it to Master Zhu Zhao, who needed it the most. Xinghui felt that he was not as generous as Master Songqiong. In that case, Master Songqiong, go and prepare the vessel of truth. Once it's ready, give it to me immediately. I'll buy the originator and give it to Master Zhu Zhao." Master Songqiong nodded. After a while, he seemed to have thought of something and suddenly said, "Xinghui, this matter must be kept confidential. Since Master Zhu Zhao hasn't shown up for a long time, the outside world is guessing that it's difficult for him to recover from his injuries. Now that we can cure him and even help him quietly break through to the void transformation realm, it's a matter of great importance. If we can set a trap to lure the way of heaven to attack us, we may be able to inflict an unprecedented blow on the way of heaven and completely eliminate the threat from it." "Don't worry, Master Songqiong. I understand." "Good. There's no time to lose. I'll prepare the vessel of truth now." Chapter 629. There was no doubt that Celestial Master had mobilized his forces, especially Celestial Master. In less than a day he had placed all 1,500 Dao aura objects in front of Xinghui. Among the 1,500 Taoist aura objects, 1,300 of them belonged to Celestial Firmament, while the remaining 200 belonged to Celestial Firmament Master's personal property. "Xinghui, count them and see if they're enough." Celestial Master said with a fervent look in his eyes. "They're enough, and they're too much." "Master, I've said that 1,200 Dao aura is enough." Xinghui said, "That won't do. You've raised your chaos level to the 45th level, so you'll need to spend 100 Dao aura objects. Besides, the originator is a precious treasure. If you put it up for sale, I'm afraid that even if you ask for 2,000 Dao aura, the Heavenly Way, the Eternal Region, the Divine Region, and even the Saint Realm Giants would go bankrupt to get it. In ancient times, it was said that people used a world to exchange for our originator. Now, I've bought the originator from you with only 1,500 Dao aura. It's definitely a good deal. Therefore, take these 1,500 Dao aura and don't refuse." Master Firmament's tone was very firm. Although Celestial Master's situation has improved, to take out 1,500 Dao aura objects at once. "Xinghui, don't worry. Have you forgotten about the Supreme Divine Object you traded with us?" "Supreme Divine Object?" "We've already made use of that Supreme Divine Object. If we sacrifice the Supreme Divine Object to a cultivator with the bloodline of a divine beast, we can easily condense a crystallization object containing 10 Dao aura. In the infinite region, there are not many people who have cultivated the bloodline of a divine beast to the advanced level, but there are many who have awakened the bloodline of a divine beast in the awakening realm. Over the years, that Supreme Divine Object has been able to provide us with 1 or 200 Dao aura every year. We'll be able to accumulate 1,500 Dao aura in 10 years. 1 or 200 Dao aura a year." Qing Su was rather surprised to hear that. The Supreme Divine Artifact was completely useless in his hands, but in Tianqiong's hands, its effects were obvious. It looked like trading the Supreme Divine Artifact to Tianqiong was indeed the right choice. If that's the case, then I'll accept your offer. That's right, Xing Hui. During this period of time, the blood-colored statue has produced quite a number of Dao-carrying items. Half of these Dao-carrying items belong to you. There are about 100 Dao-carrying items. When the time comes, I'll transfer them all to you. There's no rush. Xing Hui had no choice but to agree. Master, I'll go and buy the originator right away. Wait a moment. The originator is a special existence that can only be sustained by a domain. Otherwise, it will dissipate very quickly. Let's go see Zhu Zhao first. All right. Xing Hui nodded. Under the lead of the Master of Heaven's domain, Qing Su made his way to the depths of the Heaven's domain very quickly. Along the way, they passed through powerful formations and a courtyard personally guarded by a powerful being like Yulun. Only then did they arrive in a rather well-hidden room. In the room, Master Zhu Zhao, who had obtained an innate divine charm and looked much better than before, was sitting cross-legged. He was doing his best to cultivate and maintain the origin of his domain. Sensing the arrival of Tianqiong Master and Xing Hui, Master Zhu Zhao immediately opened his eyes. Xing Hui, Master Zhu Zhao looked at the two in front of him, especially at Xing Hui, with a hint of relief in his eyes. Master, I'm here to see you, Xing Hui said. Well, Xing Hui, I've heard that you've derived a divine sense and stepped into the realm of a powerful figure. What's more, what you've derived is a supreme divine sense. Now, your battle strength is strong enough to fight against the existence of the divine realm. It's really a blessing for us to have such an achievement when Tianqiong is in a precarious situation. Congratulations. As Master Zhu Zhao spoke, he looked at Xing Hui with a somewhat complicated look in his eyes. Not long ago, he and Master Zhangzhen were debating with each other about who should be Xing Hui's master and accept him as a disciple. Later, because of their disagreement, the matter of accepting Xing Hui as a disciple was temporarily put on hold. In their opinion, Xing Hui's cultivation was still shallow at that time, and it would take decades or even hundreds of years for him to reach the gold core realm and derive a divine sense. But now, in the blink of an eye, before he and Master Zhangzhen even came to a conclusion about who should accept Xing Hui as a disciple, Xing Hui had stepped into the realm of divine sense and derived a supreme divine sense. His battle strength was comparable to that of the divine realm. Now, not to mention Master Zhangzhen, even Master Zhu Zhao was no longer qualified to teach Xing Hui. Master, you're flattering me. If it weren't for your guidance, Xing Hui wouldn't have achieved what he has today. Xing Hui said modestly. Guidance? We didn't give you any guidance. You've achieved what you have today entirely by your own ability. Master Zhu Zhao said sincerely. Well, Master Zhu Zhao, although I know you regret it now, Xing Hui's achievements are now on an equal footing with us. There's no need to say these sour words. I came here this time because I have great news to tell you, Master Zhangzhen said with a smile. Great news? That's right. In fact, before I received this good news, I was hesitating whether to give this opportunity to you. This opportunity is really too tempting. But considering the current situation of Sky Dome Realm and the precarious situation of the Divine Wilderness, I finally decided to give this opportunity to you. Don't be too surprised later. Too surprised? Master Zhu Zhao smiled and said, I've experienced all kinds of storms in my life. Although the broken sword incident made me angry, it seems that it's over now. At worst, I'll find a chance to kill him and clean up the mess. What else can surprise me? Hi, you're right. Ordinary things and things can't surprise you. Then what about the originator? Can such a fortuitous encounter surprise you? The originator? Master Zhu Zhao was slightly stunned. At first, he almost didn't react. But after a while, he seemed to think of something and suddenly opened his eyes wide. He sat up and leaned forward. The originator? Master Zhangzhen, what did you say? The originator? The supreme divine object in the eyes of all divine realm experts. The originator? Oh, didn't you say that nothing in this world can surprise you? This expression is different from what you said just now. Master Zhangzhen was in a good mood and teased Master Zhu Zhao. When Qing Su witnessed this scene, he couldn't help but chuckle slightly. He never expected these two Saint Realm experts who were usually known to be virtuous would have such an unknown side to them. Well, Master Zhongjin, I'm not joking with you. What did you say just now? Is it really the originator? Where did the originator come from? Master Zhu Zhao couldn't wait to ask. In the end, he seemed to think of something and said in surprise, "You've solved the chessboard of the cave mansion?" Even though that cave abode belongs to a renowned saint expert, the originator is a precious item. How could that cave abode possess it? Master Zhongjin said and glanced at Xing Hui. It's Xing Hui. To be exact, it's Xing Hui's Chaos Treasure Pavilion. Chaos Treasure Pavilion? The Chaos Treasure Pavilion has the originator for sale? Master Zhu Zhao suddenly realized something and said in disbelief, "During this period, I've also raised the level of chaos to level 45 to see if there's any innate divine charm for sale, but I didn't get anything. The originator is a treasure countless times more precious than the innate divine charm. How could the Chaos Treasure Pavilion have it? How is that possible? Who knows? Maybe it's a fish that slipped through the net. The items and prices in the Chaos Treasure Pavilion may be affected to a certain extent by the surrounding worlds, but the influence isn't absolute. It's reasonable that Xing Hui was lucky enough to obtain a treasure like the originator." Master Zhongjin also had some doubts, but because they knew too little about the Chaos Temple and the Chaos Treasure Pavilion, they could only blame it on luck. "Zhu Zhao, this originator is the most suitable for you. The energy transformed from the originator not only has the ability to strengthen the domain origin, but it's also incredibly helpful for the divine true body and world creation. In other words, you won't have to worry about the energy problem in the divine realm. Your talent is the sin of our Master Zhongjin. If you solve the energy problem, there's a great chance that you'll become a supreme existence who can create a world with a thought in the future. Give it to me." Master Zhu Zhao's eyes fell on Master Zhongjin. "The originator can be used by those in the domain realm. If I can use it, so can you." Master Zhongjin waved his hand and pretended to be carefree. "If it was hundreds of years ago, when the divine wilderness was peaceful, I might have competed with you. But now, the divine wilderness is in turmoil. The heavenly way, the divine wilderness, and the eternal realm are about to join forces to clear out the divine wilderness. Our Master Zhongjin urgently needs a powerful force to protect the divine wilderness. Under such circumstances, it's the best choice to let you refine the originator. Otherwise, if the divine wilderness is destroyed and we're targeted by the Tao Master of the heavenly way, we'll die. What's the use of refining the originator if we're dead?" Phew. Venerable Master Zhu Zhao let out a long sigh. He knew that Venerable Master Firmament wanted him to accept the originator without too much of a burden and use it. "Master Zhongjin, we've been through thick and thin together all these years. I won't say anything unnecessary." "I understand." Master Zhongjin nodded solemnly. Then he turned to Xing Hui. "Buy the originator from the Chaos Treasure Pavilion to avoid any unforeseen circumstances. If the items in the Chaos Treasure Pavilion suddenly change and cause the originator to disappear, we'll definitely regret it for the rest of our lives." Qing Su nodded. He went to the Chaos Treasure Pavilion with the 1,500 Tao-bearing treasures. He immediately went to the wall of ice where the cosmic source was and bought it. "Master Zhu Zhao, catch it with your domain." As Qing Su said that, the Reverend Zhu Zhao's domain had already been activated. Even though it was still constantly dispersing, the domain was much more condensed than any domain Qing Su had seen before. At that moment, Xing Hui transferred the originator from his personal space into Master Zhu Zhao's domain. As soon as the originator appeared, it seemed to communicate with some kind of alternate time and space. Even the space within 100 meters of it was slightly distorted. In that distorted space, mysterious energy was drawn and injected into the originator. Then, it was swallowed and spat out by the originator and turned into an extremely pure and special energy. Just refining a trace of this energy made Xing Hui feel refreshed. Even his physical body, which had reached the peak of the 9 transformations of the true dragon, seemed to have been tempered and strengthened a little. Chapter 630. Great, the originator, it really is the originator. Master Candle Illumination and Master Firmament were pleasantly surprised. I'll refine the originator now. With the chaotic vital chi converted by the originator, I'll be able to recover my cultivation in a month or 3 months. Moreover, I'm confident that I can complete my domain realm and enter the insightful emptiness realm within a year. Enter the insightful void realm in a year? Sing Hui's eyes lit up. Master, can I use the power of space when I enter the insightful void realm? The insightful void realm is a special application formed by the combination of the domain and the law of space. Once a cultivator enters the insightful void realm, he can isolate himself from space. As long as he doesn't show himself to attack, any attack below the vacuum-shattering realm can do nothing to him. As for using the power of space, I think he's still a little lacking. Still a little lacking? Can't he use the power of space when he's in the insightful void realm? Sing Hui was stunned. Only a vacuum-shattering realm expert can barely use the power of space. Vacuum-shattering realm experts use the power of space to create the effect of vacuum-shattering realm. Vacuum-shattering realm. Sing Hui's expression was unsightly. After so many twists and turns, he still had to reach the vacuum-shattering realm to be able to use the power of space and return to Earth? I'm confident that my understanding of space is not weaker than Hierarch Ancient Desolation, Emperor Tai, or Chaos Holy Man. Even if they enter the insightful void realm before me, I'm confident that I can catch up with them in 50 years and even enter the vacuum-shattering realm with them. Therefore, this step is not too far away. Vacuum-shattering realm. At the side, Master Firmament side. The biggest difference between the second level of the Saint Realm and the first level of the Saint Realm, the Domain Realm, was that the second level of the Saint Realm could fuse with the laws of space and become immune to all attacks below the Void-Shattering Realm. In other words, as long as the Saint Realm expert didn't take the initiative to attack, the group of Saint Realm experts wouldn't be able to do anything to the Saint Realm expert. There was no doubt that a second-level Saint Realm expert's life-saving ability was strong, but fortunately, their attacking methods hadn't changed much. The only change was that they could suddenly attack from space, and their attacks were full of unexpected effects. However, if the other divinity stage powerhouses were careful, they could still guard against this kind of attack. But Crushing Vacuum was different. Once he reached the vacuum-shattering realm, his attack power would be mixed with the use of space collapse, and his power would skyrocket countless times. Ordinary Saint Realm experts would be instantly killed even if they had a domain to protect them. At that time, the other party could enter the void and unleash a vacuum-shattering strike. With the combination of the two, ordinary Saint Realm giants would only be sending themselves to their deaths no matter how many of them there were. Ordinary Saint Realm experts wouldn't be able to fight back against a vacuum-shattering level existence. Zhu Zhao, if you can really enter the void-shattering realm, then Firmament will truly be qualified to fight against the Heavenly Tao, the Eternal Realm, and the Divine Wilderness. Those almighties who don't like what the Divine Wilderness has done but have no choice, and even the Saint Realm giants, will definitely choose to join Firmament. If we have the ability to refine the two-realm boat. When Firmament Master said this, he seemed to be able to see the bright future of Firmament Master. Zhu Zhao esteemed nodded cautiously. There's no time to lose. I'll go into seclusion now and strive to reach the void transformation realm first. I'll leave Firmament Master's matter to you. Don't worry. Currently, our Sky Dome sect, Sword Shadow sect, and Rainbow Sword sect are in an alliance. As long as the Heavenly Tao, Eternal, and Divine Wilderness don't join forces to attack our Sky Dome sect, our Sky Dome sect will be safe for the time being. Zhu Zhao esteemed nodded. Firmament Master immediately led Sing Hui out of Zhu Zhao esteem's room. At the same time, he told Yulan, who was guarding outside the courtyard, not to let anyone disturb Zhu Zhao esteem's cultivation. Then he left Zhu Zhao esteem's courtyard. Sing Hui, this time, it's all thanks to you. I'm also a member of Firmament Master. This is what I should do. Sing Hui said with a smile. I won't say any more words of thanks. In the future, if there's anything that Firmament Master can help with, Firmament Master will definitely not refuse. Firmament Master said with a solemn expression. Sing Hui nodded. Of course, Firmament Master is equivalent to my home in heaven wasteland domain. If there's anything, I naturally won't be polite. Ha, you're right. This is your home in heaven wasteland domain. Firmament Master said with a smile. Next, the two chatted for a while, and then returned to their respective courtyards. Back in the courtyard, Tsing Hui did not immediately study the Gestar Sea funeral oration, but instead turned his gaze back to the Chaos Treasure Pavilion. The items sold in the 60th Step Chaos Treasure Pavilion were supreme treasures that could move even the supreme existences of the Chaos Realm. Now that he had enough Tao-carrying items, if he did not take some that could be of use, wouldn't it be a waste of God's treasures? Solid Star Stone, Kunpeng Blood, Serene Stone, Lightning Time Gold, Dark Crystal, Divine Transformation Fruit, Living Soil, Wood Origin Bead, and World Tree Leaves. Tsing Hui's gaze swept across the frozen walls of the Chaos Treasure Pavilion one by one. He excluded the Divine Transformation Fruit, World Tree Leaves, Star Stone, and Kunpeng Blood. Of these three, the Divine Transformation Fruit was only useful to sacred beasts. The World Tree Leaves could only be used when one was at the peak of the 5th tier of the Divine Transformation Realm. As for the Star Stone, could it strengthen a star? When he returned to the world of Earth, he could consider strengthening the world of Earth, but for now, it was still not useful. As for the Kunpeng Blood, it was of too high a level. He did not forget how much effort it took for him to refine the Divine Transformation Candle Dragon's blood when he was at the Immortality Realm. Refining a portion of the Chaos Kunpeng Blood without many herbs? That was akin to courting death. Then, the only things he could choose from were the Serene Stone, Lightning Time Gold, Dark Crystal, Living Soil, and Wood Origin Bead. Lightning Time Gold should be a refining material. Living Soil, according to legend, can create land. Wood Origin Bead, Serene Stone, and Dark Crystal have unknown origins and uses. Tsing Hui's gaze swept across these items. In the end, he really could not bear to waste them. I'll use appraisal to appraise them one by one. It'll only take me a few dozen AUDL to maintain the Chaos Treasure Pavilion for a few days. Once he made up his mind, Tsing Hui's gaze fell on the Wood Origin Bead immediately and used appraisal on it. The Wood Origin Bead can greatly shorten the growth time of plant-type creatures. This appraisal result is too irresponsible. How much time can it shorten? What level of plant-type creatures is it effective on? I don't even know. Tsing Hui was a little helpless. His appraisal skills level was too low after all. Level 1, moreover, looking at the level of Chaos level 60, even if he wanted to continue upgrading his appraisal skill, he would not be able to do so. Let's wait. Tsing Hui temporarily put the matter of the Chaos Treasure Pavilion aside. Then, he turned his gaze to the two mental cultivation techniques that he had chosen, the Starry Sea Elegy and the 6 Desires Mind Cultivation Technique. First, he chose the Starry Sea Elegy, which was said to have a strengthening effect on the physical body. This mental cultivation technique was not difficult to cultivate. It was nothing more than carving 27 elegies in one's mental world. Tsing Hui's mental strength was not weak, so it was not slow for him to carve these elegies. When the first elegy was almost completed, the remaining Living Soil, Flash Dragon Gold, Darkness Crystal, and Abyssal Stone in the Chaos Treasure Pavilion were all appraised by him. Flash Dragon Gold is indeed a refining material. Its level is so high that it makes one's hair stand on end. It's a good thing that I didn't buy the Abyssal Stone. It's actually a cursed item. It's a bit like a poison, but curses are much more advanced than poisons. With my current ability, I'm afraid that I'll be infected with the curse if I touch it. When that happens, I won't have a good ending. On the other hand, the Darkness Crystal can store souls and nourish them. This is the real deal. Tsing Hui's attention was mainly focused on the Darkness Crystal. As for the Living Soil, it was just as Tsing Hui had guessed. It was a type of soil that could grow automatically. If it was thrown into the sea, it would grow into a continent in no time. If it was placed in the starry sky, it could even evolve into a star. However, Tsing Hui had no use for it now. The Flash Dragon Gold and the Darkness Crystal are not bad. Moreover, the price of the Flash Dragon Gold is very low, only 200 Taoist rhymes. The price of the darkness crystal is not high either, only 380 Taoist rhymes. The two items added up to 480 Taoist rhymes. Tsing Hui had obtained 414 Taoist rhymes after selling all the items he had obtained from the Black Flame sect. Even though he had leveled up by 1 chaotic level, he still had 300 Taoist rhymes left. In addition to the 1,500 Taoist rhymes from the Firmament Venerable Man, he was left with 300 Taoist rhymes after purchasing the originator. He had more than 600 Taoist rhymes with him, which was enough to buy these two items. The main function of the darkness crystal should be to nourish the soul. I wonder how effective it is. It's a pity that my primordial spirit does not belong to the category of nourishment. Otherwise, I could give it a try. Tsing Hui felt a little regretful. However, he believed that he would have plenty of opportunities in the future. After keeping the Flash Dragon Gold and the darkness crystal in his personal space, Tsing Hui turned his attention to the Galaxy Sacrificial Oration again. The first sacrificial oration of the Galaxy Sacrificial Oration was already at the final stage of its cultivation. Tsing Hui immediately immersed himself in it again. 6 hours later, the first sacrificial oration of the Galaxy Sacrificial Oration was finally completed. The moment the sacrificial oration was completed, it vibrated slightly as though it was communicating with some kind of existence in the unseen world, hoping to receive a feedback of power. However, 1 minute passed, 3 minutes passed, 10 minutes passed. After half an hour, when the light on the sacrificial oration had almost completely dissipated, a trace of energy that was so weak that it was almost undetectable entered Tsing Hui's body from the space that the sacrificial oration communicated with. This energy was so weak that if Tsing Hui had not sensed it carefully, he would not have been able to detect this feedback, let alone improve his spiritual level and physical body. The effect is so weak? Tsing Hui frowned. This Galaxy Sacrificial Oration had been mentioned by people in the Cliff universe and its effect was negligible. However, at that time, it was said that the Cliff universe had been torn apart by someone. The universe was too small, so naturally, there was no feedback of power. However, in the vast and bright universe, the feedback of power was enough to make one's cultivation soar. Tsing Hui originally thought that if he brought this sacrificial oration to his world to cultivate, the feedback he would receive would definitely satisfy him. However, he did not expect it was still the same. The feedback power was almost negligible. Could it be that in this world I'm in, the universe I can see is actually very small? Tsing Hui did some calculations. Even if the divine wilderness world included the ocean, it would not exceed 1 billion kilometers. And the distance of 1 light year was more than 900 billion kilometers. It was unknown how many times larger than the divine wilderness world. The entire Cliff universe was 396 light years. With such a calculation, the Cliff universe was much larger than the divine wilderness world. Shaking his head, Tsing Hui could only put down the Galaxy Sacrificial Oration and turn his gaze to the 6 Desires mind cultivation technique that had the hidden danger of schizophrenia. Chapter 631. The 6 Desires soul refining technique separates one's own desires and forms an incarnation of desires. This incarnation can be planted in other people's bodies and absorb their love, hate, anger, infatuation, greed, fear. Tsing Hui looked at the 6 desires in the 6 Desires soul refining technique. Its manifestation was somewhat different from what he knew of the 6 desires. Rather than the 6 desires, it was more like the 7 emotions. The 6 Desires soul refining technique is much more reliable than the Starry Sea funeral oration. However, to cultivate this spiritual technique, I first need to find 6 suitable bodies and plant the incarnations of the 6 desires in them. Love is love, hate is hatred, anger is fury, infatuation is infatuation, greed is greed, and fear is fear. It shouldn't be difficult. Tsing Hui thought to himself. After pondering for a while, he decided not to implement this plan in Heaven Wasteland. The waters of Heaven Wasteland were too deep. If he was careless and his incarnations of the 6 desires were destroyed, it would be a great loss to his mental strength. If his incarnations of the 6 desires were destroyed, his mental strength might even fall. Among the continents that I rule, the most stable one is the Fortune continent, and the one with the strongest control is the Hidden Sword continent. Xing Hui thought for a while and finally decided to cultivate the 6 desires soul refining technique on the Fortune continent. The Fortune continent was extremely far away from Heaven Wasteland. It was a peaceful world and rarely received any disturbances from the outside world. Moreover, there were no powerful peak experts on the Fortune continent. Golden Core Realm experts were enough to run amok. It would be much easier for him to deal with the situation. If I can really cultivate the 6 desires soul refining technique, my mental strength will definitely skyrocket. At least, it will reach the 140th level. At that time, with my mental strength as the foundation and sword intent as support, I might be able to make 10,000 swords submit to me. From there, I can gather the power of 10,000 swords and form sword force. Xing Hui muttered to himself. Immediately, Huang Xiaolong sent a message to Venerable Firmament, informing him that he was going into seclusion for a period of time. He then entered the Chaos Temple's personal space and looked for a Son of Chaos from the Burning Sky sect. After asking for a spiritual coordinate, Huang Xiaolong used the backtracking technique and incarnation technique to arrive at the Burning Sky sect on the Fortune mainland. The weakening effect of using the incarnation technique to land on the Fortune continent is really serious. Xing Hui sensed the weakness of his body and shook his head helplessly. The next moment, the backtrack spell was activated, and the weakened state on his body was instantly swept away. Lord Dongyang. Not long after Xing Hui arrived at the courtyard, the sect master of the Burning Sky sect, Rockheart, immediately came over and greeted him respectfully. Xing Hui responded. In the next moment, he seemed to have sensed something, and his gaze suddenly swept around in a circle. Just a moment ago, he actually felt a few probing gazes. Heartcliff, it looks like you're right. There are indeed many people with undying ambitions. It looks like I didn't intimidate them enough. Xing Hui said coldly. Needless to say, those spies must be serving the other 6 great sections. This subordinate did not do a good job. I'll have to trouble Milord. Heartcliff's face was filled with guilt. At the end of the day, she was merely a true element boundary cultivator. The 6 great sects had taken advantage of Xing Hui's absence to plant people in the Burning Sky sect. Moreover, the Burning Sky sect's foundation was weak. Even with Xing Hui's help, it would take a long time for them to reach the same level as the 6 great sections. Xing Hui glanced at Heartcliff. He had miscalculated. Before coming to the Fortune continent, he should have paid a visit to the Hidden Sword sect and brought along some experts to sweep through the Fortune continent. He didn't need too many. As long as he had 30 Golden Core Realm Elders, he could easily wipe out all the resistance forces on the Fortune continent. Perhaps I can consider raising an infant divine beast. Infant divine beasts generally have 10th order divine beasts battle prowess. Moreover, because they are divine beasts, their battle prowess is not inferior to Golden Core Realm experts. If I can raise such a divine beast to suppress the Fortune continent, I believe that even if the 6 great sects were given 100 times more guts, they wouldn't dare to act rashly. With this thought in mind, Xing Hui walked into the Burning Sky sect. In fact, the current Burning Sky sect was the Purple Firmament Palace's headquarters in the Central Plains. How's the establishment of the intelligence department I asked you to establish? Reporting to Lord, our Burning Sky sect's greatest achievement during this period of time is to establish an intelligence network that covers almost the entire Fortune mainland. This intelligence network is not inferior to the 6 supreme sections. Currently, we are able to detect the slightest movement on the Fortune mainland almost immediately. Heartcliff respectfully replied. The intelligence department was indeed her only achievement during this period of time. Very good. I need you to find some absolutely reliable people and look for information on some people. These people must fit one of the 5 characteristics. These 5 characteristics are love, hatred, rage, obsession, and greed. Xing Hui said. As for fear, he planned to look for it personally. Facing fear head-on wasn't an easy thing to do. Heartcliff glanced at Xing Hui. Although she didn't know why he was looking for these people, she agreed without hesitation. This subordinate will do it right away. Go, I'll give you 1 month. I hope to receive satisfactory news in a month. Sing Hui said and returned to his room. While Heartcliff was looking for people who fit these characteristics, he had to study the 6 desires soul refining technique to avoid any problems. Just as Tsing Hui arrived on the Fortune continent and entered seclusion, the 6 great sects' restlessness quickly subsided. For the 6 great sects to be able to survive until now, none of them were fools. If Tsing Hui wasn't on the Fortune continent, a mere burning sky sect wouldn't be able to do anything if they wanted to stir up trouble. However, Tsing Hui had returned, and with his strength, it would be a piece of cake for him to annihilate the 6 great sections. Therefore, in order to avoid provoking him, it was best to hide and observe carefully. Under such circumstances, the Fortune continent, which was originally filled with undercurrents, had a rare month of peace. "Milord, the people you asked us to pick have been selected. Please take a look." In Tsing Hui's room, Heartcliff respectfully handed over a stack of documents. "So many?" Tsing Hui was a little surprised when he saw the documents Heartcliff handed over. "Milord, because we didn't know what your criteria were, we chose those who fit the criteria. Moreover, according to their cultivation realm, we chose different people." Tsing Hui nodded and picked up the 300 documents, flipping through them one by one. He didn't dare to be careless when it came to cultivating the 6 desires soul refining technique. One had to know that even though the 6 desires soul refining technique had remarkable effects, and once cultivated, it would raise one's cultivation realm by a large realm, the drawbacks were equally serious. The slightest mistake could lead to schizophrenia. He had no choice but to be careful. Su Zhongjing, Zi Dongxing, Dao Qi, Ji Yun, and Xie Danqing. Qing Su looked through the information of the several hundred people carefully. In the end, he chose the information of 5 of them. Su Zhongjing, childhood sweetheart with Shu Huai from the city, and they fell in love with each other. Shu Huai was accepted as a disciple by the Lianyun sect's sect master. The sect master wanted to stop their relationship because he didn't want Su Zhongjing to interfere with Shu Huai's cultivation. Su Zhongjing has joined the Lianyun sect and wants to rely on his own talent to obtain the recognition of the Lianyun sect's sect master Yu Lianyun to pursue the love of his life. Zi Dongxing, this one is simple. His entire family died at the hands of the Yellow Dragon Manor's second housekeeper. He is filled with hatred and desires to destroy the Yellow Dragon Manor for revenge. Dao Qi, a general of the vast Sky Empire. The vast Sky Empire has a history of 1,000 years, and corruption runs deep. Dao Qi witnessed the collapse of the empire with his own eyes and was enraged to the extreme. He wants to restore the vast Sky Empire with his own strength. Ji Yun, obsessed with the sword and known as the sword fanatic. He has spent his entire life pursuing the supreme truth of the sword. Tsing Hui's gaze swept across them one by one. Their backgrounds were ordinary and the forces they had offended were basically first or second rate. They only had the power to cover the sky with one hand and were nothing in Tsing Hui's eyes. In fact, even if these forces were the 6 supreme sects, Tsing Hui wouldn't care. He just needed to be careful. If he wasn't careful, the bodies that contain the incarnation of the 6 desires would be destroyed by those true energy realm, transformative realm, or even endless realm cultivators. The incarnation of the 6 desires requires them to pour out their desires in order for it to be absorbed by the incarnation of the 6 desires. Simply put, I have to let them get what they want. It seems like I have to be the good guy a few times. The first few people are easier to deal with, but that Xie Danqing wants to become the master of creation? That's a little troublesome. In that case, I'll change my target. He's also from the heavenly court and his name is Xiang Tianfeng. His desires are smaller and he only wants to become the master of the heavenly court. Helping him isn't a big deal. I'll just plant the incarnation of the 6 desires in their bodies first. As Tsing Hui thought about it, he stood up and headed towards the Lianyun sect, where Su Zhongjing was, according to the information provided by Rockheart. It was true that the desires poured out, but before that, he had to stimulate the other party's desires to the extreme. That way, the more power of the 6 desires the incarnation of the 6 desires could absorb, the more significant the enhancement to the spiritual level would be. Using Su Zhongjing as an example, if he wanted to stimulate Su Zhongjing's desires to the extreme, then he had to let the two of them continuously act out the parting of life and death. Parting of life and death had to be controlled well. If he went too far, the parting of life and death would really become the separation of yin and yang. Then, the incarnation of the 6 desires that he had painstakingly chosen would be wasted. Since I'm not very familiar with the first round, I'll lower the difficulty first. Tsing Hui landed in the Lianyun sect. After some consideration, he directly appeared in the courtyard where the ordinary disciples of the Lianyun sect lived. Chapter 632. The Lianyun sect was not a large sect. Even the sect master, Yu Lianyun, was only at the prominent divine stage. Compared to the Burning Sky sect, he was slightly inferior. The disciples of the Lianyun sect were basically at the awakening stage to the spirit refining stage. Once they reached the spirit chi unity stage, they would become elders. Tsing Hui did not need to activate Shadowless. He could hide in the Lianyun sect without being discovered by anyone. With his mental energy, he quickly found Su Zhongjing's location. Tsing Hui immediately activated the 6 desires spirit refining art and gradually formed a 6 desires incarnation. Ahem. As expected, the 6 desires incarnation is equivalent to splitting a part of one's spirit to form. It's a great loss to one's spirit, and even a part of one's spirit source. If it's really destroyed, I won't be able to recover without 3 to 5 years. Even if I have the rank 10 recovery ability, it will take more than 10 days for the 6 desires incarnation to recover. Tsing Hui frowned, but still silently planted the 6 desires incarnation into Su Zhongjing's body. It's my first time. It's best to be careful. Even if the effect isn't satisfactory, I can't easily take the risk. Tsing Hui pondered for a moment, then quickly arrived at the courtyard of the Lianyun sect master, Yu Lianyun. To ensure his safety, it was best to have the Lianyun sect master look after Su Zhongjing. As Tsing Hui appeared, Yu Lianyun, who looked like a 30-year-old woman in Taoist robes, immediately sensed him. She immediately shouted, "Who is it?" "Don't be impatient," Tsing Hui said indifferently. A powerful mental energy pressure enveloped the area. Yu Lianyun, whose cultivation was only at the prominent divine stage, was immediately suppressed by Tsing Hui to the point that she could not move. Even her thoughts seemed to have frozen. Looking at Tsing Hui, Yu Lianyun felt a chill rise in her heart. In the next second, she seemed to have thought of something and exclaimed, "May I ask if Senior is the Lord of Creation, the Lord of Creation?" "Oh, you know me?" Upon hearing Tsing Hui's acknowledgement, Yu Lianyun hurriedly bowed respectfully. Yu Lianyun failed to welcome the Creation Master earlier. "Please forgive me. There's no harm in asking for forgiveness. I'm quite optimistic about your Lianyun sect's Su Zhongjing and intend to test him. However, before that, I want to know if he's as affectionate and righteous as he appears to be. Give him some tests and see if he can break through the layers of obstacles and finally walk together with your disciple Shu Huai. Remember, you can't harm his life, understand?" Ascendant General? Yu Lianyun had personally accepted Shu Huai as her disciple and was unwilling to let her disciple's feelings affect her cultivation. Naturally, she had some impression of Su Zhongjing. Now that she heard that Su Zhongjing had actually caught the eye of the Lord of Creation, she immediately turned pale with fright. She hurriedly knelt down. Lianyun didn't know that Su Zhongjing was the disciple that the Lord of Creation had taken a fancy to. "If I knew, no matter what, I wouldn't," Tsing Hui waved his hand. "I'm just giving you some instructions. What you need to do now is to set up difficult obstacles and test the feelings between him and your disciple Shu Huai. See if he's as faithful as he appears to be, even in the face of life and death. His love for Shu Huai will never change. Do you understand? Lord of Creation, please don't worry. Lianyun will definitely do my best to complete the task that the Lord of Creation has given me. Yes, if you do this well, I'll grant you some resources to allow you to enter the true energy stage. However, if you don't do it well, and something happens to Su Zhongjing?" At this point, Tsing Hui's gaze turned cold. I'll make you pay with your life. Lord of Creation, please don't worry. Even if I have to put my life on the line, I'll ensure Su Zhongjing's safety. You just need to know the limits of your actions. Are you a son of chaos? A hint of guilt appeared on Yu Lianyun's face. The son of chaos has a noble status. This is a tier 4 primal chaos magic formula. Keep it. If anything happens to Ascendant, inform me immediately. Xing Hui took out a chaos technique. A level 4 chaos technique was nothing to the current him. In order to ensure that his first attempt at cultivating the 6 desires soul refinement technique was safe, he could use a chaos technique to ensure that nothing would go wrong. Seeing the chaos technique Xing Hui took out, Yu Lianyun was stunned for a moment. Then he revealed a look of ecstasy. Many thanks for the reward, Lord of Creation. If there's anything you can't resolve, contact me directly in the Chaos Temple. I'll rush over immediately. Xing Hui said. He didn't appear at Su Zhongjing's place. Instead, he left the Lianyun faction and rushed towards his next target. Is he going to destroy the Yellow Dragon Manor? Zi Dongxing's entire family has been wiped out, but he still has a few cousins from his mother's side. If I want to stimulate his hatred to the extreme, then I can work on his mother's side. However, this is my first time cultivating the 6 desires soul refinement technique. I need to be fast and steady. My goal is to let my 6 desires incarnation absorb enough 6 desires energy within 3 months to complete the first cultivation of the 6 desires soul refinement technique. I don't have that much time to set up a trap for him. As he thought about it, Xing Hui flew on his sword and arrived at Zi Dongxing's location. In fact, both Zi Dongxing and Dao Qi belonged to the vast Sky Empire. The vast Sky Empire was the largest empire under the jurisdiction of the Grand Beginning sect on the Fortune mainland. There were several prominent sage retired emperors in the imperial family. However, these retired emperors usually didn't participate in the empire's affairs. Usually, they would only send their Spirit and Chi Unity Realm and Blue Netherworld Realm consecrators to handle matters. The Yellow Dragon Manor was one of the 36 manors of the vast Sky Empire. It was Duke Rongrue's fief. In this fief, there were several Spirit and Chi Unity Realm experts, as well as a large number of Spirit Refining and True Chi Realm cultivators. Zi Dongxing, who wanted to overturn the Yellow Dragon Manor, was only in the Awakening Realm. He had yet to cultivate his true chi. When Xing Hui found Zi Dongxing had just evaded a group of Yellow Dragon Manor soldiers and was recovering his strength in a dense forest. This Zi Dongxing is a little dangerous, but I can't follow him all the time, hiding in the void. Xing Hui looked at the panting Zi Dongxing and pondered for a moment. Soon he came up with a plan. It's easy for me to take revenge for him, but it's hard to absorb too much hatred. I'll bring one of my incarnations with me. On one hand, I can let this incarnation teach him cultivation and increase his strength. On the other hand, this incarnation can guarantee his safety. Thinking of this, Xing Hui took out a piece of Kanglin Jade Crystal. Kanglin Jade Crystal, combined with a strand of Primordial Spirit Chi, could allow the avatar to live in the Kanglin Jade Crystal for several years without dissipating. In the past, the UNG sect's Xia Tian had used this method to trick Nailin Fei, plotting to obtain the mysterious statue that Xing Hui had traded to Tian Qiong. He had almost succeeded. With Xing Hui's current spiritual force, he didn't need any primordial spirit chi to perform the primordial spirit avatar technique. He could rely on a piece of Kanglin Jade Crystal to keep the avatar for several months without dissipating. As for several months later, either the cultivation of the 6 desires avatar was completed, or he could replenish the avatar. In any case, he was on the Fortune mainland. With his flying speed, it would take him less than a day to reach any corner of the Fortune mainland. Xing Hui recuperated for a while, then separated a strand of the 6 desires avatar and planted it in Zi Dongxing's body. At the same time, he made some arrangements not far away from Zi Dongxing. By this time, Zi Dongxing had recovered some of his strength after a short rest. He stood up abruptly and said, "I can't stay here any longer. Otherwise, the Yellow Dragon Manor's people will catch up to me soon." With that said, Zi Dongxing endured the pain in his body and quickly got to his feet, heading towards the depths of the forest. However, not long after he walked into the depths of the forest, a layer of fog silently spread through the forest, causing Zi Dongsheng to gradually lose his sense of direction. Not long after walking through the fog, a strange cave suddenly appeared in front of him. Strange, is there a hill in this forest? Zi Dongsheng looked at the cave in front of him with a hesitant expression. However, a moment later, he seemed to have noticed something. His eyes widened as he stared fixedly at a strange mineral inside the cave. Spirit crystal? That's a spirit crystal? Shocked, Zi Dongsheng quickly stepped into the cave. The mineral that appeared near the entrance of the cave was a spirit crystal. Oh my god, it's actually the legendary spirit crystal. With this spirit crystal, I can easily buy a level 3 divine weapon. And if I have a level 3 divine weapon in my hands, I can even fight to the death with experts who have cultivated Jinchi. Zi Dongsheng's eyes flashed with ecstasy. A moment later, he looked into the cave again with a trace of madness on his face. Since there's a spirit crystal here, then what about inside? If I can find enough spirit crystals, I can even buy a rank 4 divine weapon, rank 5 divine weapon, and even the legendary rank 6 divine weapon. Even if I don't buy a divine weapon, just the resources I can exchange with spirit crystals is enough to allow me to break through to the true Qi realm or even the spirit refining realm in a short period of time. At that time, I will truly have the strength to take revenge. Everyone in the Yellow Dragon Manor will pay the price for their actions in blood. With a heart full of hatred, Zi Dongsheng ignored the fatal dangers in the cave and stepped into it without hesitation. Fortunately, although the appearance of this cave was mysterious, there were not too many traps or dangers inside. Instead, he found quite a number of spirit crystals. These spirit crystals added up to a total of 500. With so many spirit crystals, it would not be difficult to purchase a level 5 divine weapon. This is, after Zi Dongsheng picked up a large number of spirit crystals and came to the center of the cave, a crystal-like treasure appeared in front of him. Unlike the spirit crystals that were randomly scattered on the ground, this crystal stone was obviously extremely precious. It was carefully placed on a stone platform. In addition to the azure radiance that it was emitting, anyone could feel that this crystal stone was extraordinary. Zi Dongsheng looked at the crystal in front of him, his eyes filled with malevolence. I've been forced to the point of no return. Even if this crystal contains great danger, so what? As long as it can help me take revenge, even if I have to give up my soul to make a deal with the devil, I won't hesitate. After saying that, he suddenly stepped forward and grabbed the Kanglin Jade Crystal. Chapter 633. The moment he held the Kanglin Jade Crystal in his hand, it was branded into his palm like a soldering iron. At the same time, a carefree voice sounded in his mind, I've finally found a suitable furnace. With this furnace, I'll definitely be able to return to the peak and become the king of creation. Brat, surrender obediently and hand over your body to me. Or you, what do you want? You don't have to worry about anything else. You just need to give me your body. Possession. Is this the possession mentioned in novels and biographies? Zi Dongsheng's face instantly turned pale. No. I haven't taken my revenge. I haven't destroyed the Yellow Dragon Manor. I haven't made the people of the Yellow Dragon Manor pay with their blood. I can't die, I can't die. Zi Dongsheng roared crazily, his body filled with a strong desire to live. Under his strong desire to live, the voice clearly became irritated. Damn it, you actually have such strong hatred and resentment. It'll be troublesome to possess you. Hey kid, how about we make a deal? I'll teach you and help you become an expert. I'll give you a chance to take your revenge. When the time comes, you'll give me your body and let me be reborn. How about that? Zi Dongsheng's mind spun crazily. On the brink of death, his intelligence seemed to have broken through the heavens. He instantly understood his situation. Hatred. My hatred prevents him from forcefully possessing me. As long as my hatred doesn't dissipate, he won't be able to truly possess me. I can agree to it first and use him to help me obtain the power to take revenge. When I have enough power, I'll definitely be able to come into contact with the spiritual realm. At that time, I might be able to expel him. Moreover, even if I die in the end, as long as I can take revenge, I'll die without regrets. When he thought of this, he immediately roared, I agree. As long as you can help me take revenge, I'll do anything. Good, then our deal is set. You'd better listen to me obediently. Otherwise, I'll just destroy your soul and wait for a new furnace. The second one has been dealt with. Although the doppelganger produced by the primordial spirit doppelganger technique isn't strong, I have specially strengthened the power of the primordial spirit in the doppelganger. If it were to erupt completely, it would not be a problem to kill true energy stage or even transformative stage experts. With Zi Dongxing's level, it would be extremely difficult for him to come into contact with prominent divine stage cultivators, let alone true energy stage or transformative stage existences. With the protection of the doppelganger, he could be considered safe. Xing Hui relaxed when he saw Zi Dongxing obtain the soul clone he had left behind. He continued towards his third target. Vast Sky Empire's General Daoqi. He's a big shot in the military who hates evil and has a bad temper. His problem is the easiest to solve. Xing Hui's figure shuttled through the void and soon arrived at Daoqi's camp. He secretly used his identity as the Empire's retired emperor to bestow him a level 10 divine weapon, allowing him to have a legitimate channel to vent the suppressed anger in his heart. Then, he directly sent a message to the Grand Elder of the Grand Beginning Sect, Honorable Tai Heng, to descend to the vast Sky Empire with him. Just like with Yu Lianyun, he announced that he intended to observe Daoqi and decide whether to accept him as a disciple. The Grand Beginning Sect and other forces were indeed restless when Xing Hui was not stationed in the Fortune mainland. However, with the appearance of Xing Hui, the monstrous power of an almighty figure suppressed the major sects to the point that they did not dare to make a move. Naturally, they did not dare to disobey Xing Hui's order. After settling the matter with Daoqi, Xing Hui made another trip to the heavenly court and found Xiang Tianfeng. He secretly gave him a golden core realm war puppet and a method to operate a divine-grade mecha from the Xia Empire. With this war puppet, Xiang Tianfeng's battle strength would not be inferior to a golden core realm expert. It should not be difficult for him to realize his ambition of becoming the master of the heavenly court. The Terror incarnation is the easiest to deal with. When the time comes, I'll use the One Qi into 3 Pure Ones technique to create a prime clear avatar to personally spread fear. Next, Sword Maniac Weaver Cloud. Xing Hui glanced at the information in his hand and flew towards a mountain 30,000 kilometers away from the heavenly court. There were no major Sword Dao sects on the Fortune mainland. Whether it was the Purple Cloud Palace, the Grand Beginning Sect, the Heavenly Court, the Netherworld Sect, the 3 Pure Ones Sect, or the Great Sun Divine Palace, they were not proficient in Sword Dao. There were almost no top-notch Sword Dao sects in this world. However, this did not mean that Sword Dao did not exist in this world. On the contrary, the direction of Sword Dao in this world had more or less aroused Xing Hui's interest. Boundless Sword Sect. Xing Hui tore through the air on his sword. In less than an hour, he had already appeared on the Boundless Mountain where the Boundless Sword Sect was located. The Boundless Sword Sect was one of the most famous Sword Dao sects on the Fortune mainland. It belonged to the Sword Dao Saint Emperors in the north of the Fortune mainland. Although the highest realm in the sect was only at the Green Netherworld realm, what interested Xing Hui was that there were many powerful sword techniques in this sect. Some of the top sword techniques could even allow one to fight against prominent sage experts. One had to know that the difference between the prominent sage and Green Netherworld realm was like heaven and earth. A prominent sage expert could instantly kill a Green Netherworld realm expert with his battle physique. Relying on the so-called sword techniques and Sword Dao to allow one to fight against prominent sage experts in the Green Netherworld realm was inconceivable no matter how one looked at it. It seems like there are still people in this world who have noticed the difference between the cultivation system of divine beasts and the Sword Dao. However, they don't know how to continue down this path. Xing Hui floated in the air and looked down from above. He could easily see the entire Boundless Sword Sect in his eyes. In his senses, Most of the people in this sect had very high spiritual force levels, especially the strongest expert of the Boundless Sword sect, Zhou Xian, who was known as the Sword Emperor. His spiritual force level was estimated to be above the 70th level. In addition, his sword intent had already been cultivated to the major success stage. Relying on his sword intent, he could probably cause quite a bit of damage to Green Netherworld realm experts. In addition to the subtle advantages in other aspects, it was reasonable for him to be able to fight against prominent sage experts. According to the information, Jiyun seems to be in the spirit refining realm. However, his sword techniques are shocking and he is obsessed with the sword. Even many experts whose battle strength is not inferior to the Green Netherworld realm have been defeated by his sword. This time, he specially came to challenge the Sword Emperor, Zhou Xian. He did not hesitate to die in order to find the ultimate sword Dao. Xing Hui was in the air, but his gaze was looking towards the periphery of the Boundless Sword sect. Soon, he sensed Jiyun slowly approaching the Boundless Sword sect when he was about 30 kilometers away. However, when he saw Yun, he was slightly stunned. His spiritual force level has probably reached the 80th level like Zhou Xian, right? And his sword intent is actually quite pure. Xing Hui stared at Yun carefully. Generally speaking, once a sword Dao cultivator stepped into the awakening realm, they would be affected by the awakening of the divine beast bloodline. Their sword intent would no longer be as pure as before. Jiyun was the same, but in terms of the purity of his sword intent, it was several times higher than the people of the Boundless Sword sect. It was even comparable to the purity of Xing Hui's sword intent after his epiphany at the Hidden Sword sect's Myriad Sword Peak. This person, perhaps, he can switch to cultivating the ultimate sword Dao. Although his cultivation level is low, he has a good foundation of a spiritual force level of the 80th level. He can quickly raise his cultivation level to the Transcendent Realm or even the Endless Realm. Xing Hui glanced at Jiyun and pondered for a moment. He already had a plan. In the next moment, a figure walked out of his body. It was Taiqing Xing Hui, who was formed from the one qi into 3 pure ones. The green ruins of the Grand Pure One appeared and nodded slightly at his original body. Afterwards, he stood with his sword behind his back and appeared in the air, descending. Who is it? As Taiqing Xing Hui appeared, the patrolling disciples of the Boundless Sword sect immediately sensed his location and shouted, "I'm Taiqing. I heard that the Zhou Xian Sword Emperor's sword arts are extraordinary, so I'm here to experience it." Challenging the Zhou Xian Sword Emperor? Do you think anyone can come and challenge our Zhou Xian Sword Emperor? Leave quickly, or don't blame me for being impolite. The patrolling disciple said sternly. I'm not qualified? Taiqing Xing Hui's expression was indifferent, but the powerful sword intent on his body was activated as soon as he finished speaking. Immediately, all the cultivators of the Boundless Sword sect felt the swords at their waists vibrate continuously, as if they were about to leave and fly into the void. This was sword momentum. Unfortunately, it was an unformed sword momentum. If Xing Hui could really cultivate the sword momentum, the moment he used it, the Boundless Sword sect would definitely welcome the arrival of the king. Although he was unable to attract the attention of 10,000 swords because his sword momentum had yet to be formed, his powerful spiritual foundation and sword intent that had reached the peak of perfection still caused the swords of all the sword cultivators of the Boundless Sword sect to vibrate and hum. It was like the fear of a subordinate towards a superior, and their sharpness was stolen. "Ah, my sword, what is this?" The patrolling disciple's expression changed drastically. Whether it was Sword Emperor Zhou Xian inside the Boundless Sword sect or Jiyun, who was adjusting her state and walking towards the Boundless Sword sect, their expressions changed. They immediately looked in the direction of the sword intent. What a powerful sword intent! Swish! As Jiyun rapidly accelerated towards the direction of the eruption of the sword intent, Sword Emperor Zhou Xian in the Boundless Sword sect immediately flew up from the sect and shouted, "Don't be rude to this master." As he spoke, he had already landed in front of Taiqing Xing Hui and bowed slightly. "I am Zhou Xian. Greetings, Your Excellency." "You are Sword Emperor Zhou Xian?" I heard that you are one of the strongest sword cultivators in the world and are known as the Sword Emperor. Then, let me see if your sword cultivation is as good as your name." As he spoke, the sword in Tsing Hui's hand had already been unsheathed. As the sword in his hand was unsheathed, the brilliant sword intent instantly erupted with blazing sword light. It was as if a scorching sun had bloomed in the void, completely filling the entire boundless sword sect. This kind of sword technique, this kind of sword intent. Sword Emperor Zhou Xian let out a cry of disbelief under the pressure of this sword intent. Before the sword intent that erupted from him could resist Tsing Hui's sword intent, it was already crushed into pieces by the brilliant intent in Tsing Hui's sword intent. Accompanied by a scream, the blazing flames that filled the sky dissipated, and the endless radiance gradually faded. As the many disciples of the Boundless Sword sect looked towards the battlefield in bewilderment, they happened to see the man who called himself Taiching's sword stop steadily half an inch in front of Sword Emperor Zhou Xian's forehead. He only needed to move forward a little more to completely kill Sword Emperor Zhou Xian, who was called an invincible legend in their hearts. Sword Emperor? Just this level? Too weak. Taiching Tsing Hui's tone was full of disappointment. On the other hand, Sword Emperor Zhou Xian's eyes were filled with guilt. Clearly, it was not until today that he understood what it meant to say that there was always someone better than you. I hope the Snowfield Sword Saint of the North can perform better, Taiching Tsing Hui said indifferently. He sheathed his sword, turned around, stepped into the void, and was about to break through the void and leave. "Senior, please wait." Just as he was about to leave, a fanatical voice suddenly came from the bottom of the mountain saying, "We're here." Chapter 634. Yun gazed at the resplendent sunlight rising in the direction of the immeasurable mountain. He could feel the soft hum coming from the cloud heaven, sword in his hand. He had never felt so close to the true pinnacle of swordsmanship. What kind of sword was that? Majestic, mighty, blazing. It was like the sun shining and sprinkling down brilliant heavenly might. The Sword Emperor of the Boundless Sword sect, Zhou Xian, could already be considered the supreme expert of the sword Tao in this world. He had once fought the Vision Saint stage expert alone with his sword, forcing that Vision Saint stage expert to be unable to do anything to him during the Vision Saint stage and finally retreat. It had to be known that the prominent sage stage was considered the strongest existence in any territory or country. Relying on the might of a prominent sage stage expert, they could easily establish a vast country, command hundreds of millions of people, become the supreme emperor, and enjoy wealth and glory. As long as they didn't offend the peak existences of the 6 supreme sects, the prominent sage stage expert was practically unrivaled in the vast and boundless fortune continent. But now, the Sword Emperor Zhou Xian, who was strong enough to fight against a prominent sage stage expert, couldn't even withstand a single sword strike from this mysterious expert that he had never seen before. To any sword Tao cultivator who had always lived in an environment where the sword Tao was inferior to the divine beast's cultivation system, this was tantamount to sprinkling a ray of light in the midst of despair. Ji Yun, who was obsessed with the sword and had even dedicated his life to the sword, seemed to have truly seen the true essence of the sword Tao. For a moment, he couldn't care about anything else and flew over at his fastest speed, shouting for Senior to wait. Then, like a devout believer, he knelt down respectfully to Tsing Hui and kowtowed. His forehead heavily smashed on the ground as if he was worshipping a god. "I, Ji Yun, wish to learn the sword from Senior. Please teach me." Looking at Ji Yun, who was bowing to him piously, Tsing Hui was a little moved. Initially, he had only looked for Ji Yun because of his obsession with the sword Tao. When he really saw this person, he had some other thoughts. Now, looking at Ji Yun kneeling and kowtowing to him, as well as the joy in her eyes that seemed to have survived a desperate situation, he couldn't help but think of himself back then. Back then, he had devoted himself to the cultivation of sword Tao because of his passion for it. However, under the pressure of the outside world, he had to give up his beloved sword Tao and choose the cultivation system of the divine beast lineage in order to adapt to this world better. He wanted to quickly return to Earth and reunite with his family and friends. He wanted to fulfill his promise to senior sister Ningji, so he had to give up his beloved sword Dao and choose the cultivation system of the divine beast lineage. He still remembered the struggle and despair he had felt when he figured out that he could only choose one between the divine beast cultivation system and the sword cultivation system. And the Jiyun in front of him, he might not have reached the same level as he did back then, but he had more or less sensed something. There was no path ahead. His sword Dao was severed. For a cultivator who was obsessed with the sword Dao, this was enough torture to drive him crazy. Under such circumstances, Xing Hui's sudden appearance seemed to have opened a new chapter in the sword Dao cultivation system. How could he not be overjoyed? How could he not sacrifice everything? While Xing Hui was sizing up Jiyun, the supreme expert of the infinite sword sect, Sword Emperor Zhou Xian, also realized this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He followed closely behind Jiyun and bowed respectfully to Xing Hui. I am Zhou Guang. I am also willing to learn the sword from senior. Please accept me as your disciple. From now on, I will be at your beck and call. Xing Hui glanced at Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian was also a stunning genius. If he was willing to focus on the divine beast cultivation system, he would have at least reached the prominent sage stage, or even the sage stage. He could give up his bright future to be engrossed in the sword. It was obvious that he was also a cultivator who was obsessed with the sword Dao. It was just that he could not be compared to Jiyun. Just as Xing Hui was about to say something, a group of dozens of people rode on a flying Dharma artifact that looked like a miniature warship and quickly headed in this direction. Soon, they arrived above the outer square of the Infinite Sword sect. This group of a few dozen people was obviously led by 6 young people, and the cultivation of these 6 young people ranged from the green nether realm to the prominent divine realm. Based on their age, they could be said to be overflowing with talent. Behind them, there were a few old men with profound auras, and the old man with the highest status even had his aura concealed. Obviously, he had reached the transformative realm where he could freely control his aura. And looking at their clothes, they were all members of the Primordial sect of the 6 supreme sections. Am I late? Didn't they say that 2 of the world's top sword Dao experts were going to have a life and death duel here? According to the rumors, it should be noon. There's still an hour before noon, so we should be able to make it. Why are all of you kneeling on the ground now? What's going on? The only young man in the prominent sage stage looked down in surprise. His gaze was constantly sizing up Zhou Xian, Jiyun, and Xing Hui. Young master, in fact, the one who is bowing is the sect master of the Infinite Sword sect, Zhou Xian, who is known as the Sword Emperor. The remaining one kneeling on the ground is this time's challenger, a young man overflowing with talent. It is said that he is only in the spirit refining realm, but he has already made a name for himself and is known as the next successor of the Sword Saint. The transcendent stage elder with the highest cultivation level who came with the few young people looked at them and introduced with a smile. Before the young man spoke, a black-robed man who was younger than him sneered, "Sword Emperor? What a big mouth. You're only in the blue underworld realm, yet you dare to call yourself the Sword Emperor. Are you not afraid of being ridiculed if this spreads out?" A woman in a yellow dress beside him said impatiently, "What's there to see about a group of people who play with swords and sabers? If I remember correctly, these people are all very weak." Back then, senior brother Nantiendo was somewhat curious about these so-called sword emperors, sword saints, and sword saints, so he invited the 6 most famous sword Dao experts to gather at the star-gathering peak, hoping to experience their sword skills. In the end, these 6 so-called sword emperors, sword masters, and sword saints attacked senior brother Nantiendo for 6 hours, but they didn't even touch the corner of senior brother Nantiendo's clothes. Instead, they were all panting from exhaustion. In the end, senior brother Nantiendo defeated all 6 of them with just a light palm. Speaking to here, the yellow-dressed girl added, "At that time, senior brother was only in the blue underworld realm, not even in the vision divine realm, not to mention now, entering the transformative realm." Junior martial sister Huang Ying is right. Senior brother Nantiendo was already able to disregard these so-called sword emperors, sword saints, and sword masters when he was in the blue underworld realm. Senior brother Nantianxiang, It is said that your talent is even higher than senior brother Nantiendo. These people's so-called sword skills and sword Dao are even more meaningless to you. There's no harm in watching. That Jiun is known as the future sword saint. He actually defeated a blue underworld realm cultivator in the spirit refining realm. I'm very curious and want to see what methods he used. The only vision divine realm youth, Nantianxiang, said with a smile. Then quickly finish watching and go back. After the yellow-dressed girl, Huang Ying, finished speaking, she turned her gaze to Ji Yun and Zhou Xian below. Hey, the two of you, immediately take out your strongest sword techniques and let my senior brother Tian Xiang take a good look. If your performance is exciting, we might be happy and give you a technique to condense a sacred body and let you step into the Vision Sage realm. A method to condense a saint body? Zhou Xian's heart trembled. The Fortune Mainland's 6 supreme sects had a strong monopoly over cultivation methods. Unless a Fortune Mainland cultivator joined one of the 6 supreme sects or became a part of one of the 6 supreme sects' forces, it was very difficult to obtain any high-grade cultivation methods. Moreover, due to the Fortune Mainland's great distance from the Heaven Wasteland domain, very few people would come to the Fortune Mainland to trade. This made the Fortune Mainland's monopoly even stronger than in the Heaven Wasteland domain. Xinghui had thought that Zhou Xian was unwilling to break through to the Vision Divine realm because he was obsessed with the Sword Dao, but he was wrong. He had entered the Purple Firmament Palace the moment he arrived at the Fortune Mainland and didn't know how precious the cultivation method was. Zhou Xian's spiritual force had been tempered to the extent that it wasn't inferior to a true element realm cultivator, but because he didn't have a method to condense a saint body, he had been stuck in the blue underworld realm. Now that he could obtain a method to condense a saint body, he looked at the mysterious senior Tai Ching who had ignored him and his determination wavered. Sword Dao, no matter how strong the Sword Dao was, there was a limit to it. Just like this senior Tai Ching in front of him. Although his sword was blazing like the sun and unstoppable, it was probably only at the level of a true element realm cultivator's attack. As for a true element realm cultivator, he could be considered a peak figure in the outside world, but in the 6 supreme sects, he was nothing. Thinking of this, Zhou Xian stood up and hurriedly said, "Thank you, geniuses of the Grand Beginning sect. I will fight with Ji Yun now. Please watch." With that, he hurriedly turned to Ji Yun and urged, "Ji Yun, you should have heard what the Grand Beginning sect's geniuses said. Let's compete now and satisfy the Grand Beginning sect's geniuses. At that time, we will be able to have the next cultivation method." However, Jian didn't even look at Zhou Xian. Her gaze was fixed on Xinghui as she waited for his answer. "Jian, are you willing to give up such a good opportunity?" Zhou Xian was anxious. "Hey, what are you doing? Why haven't you started? Are you wasting my time?" At this moment, Huang Ying, who was standing on a flying Dharma artifact in the void, urged unhappily. Right away. I will compete with Ji Yun right away." As Zhou Xian spoke, he had no choice but to turn his gaze to Xinghui. "Senior Tai Ching, regardless of whether you want to take Ji Yun as your disciple or not, how about letting me compete with him?" Xinghui glanced at Zhou Xian. He admired him just now, but he was acting like this in order to convert to the divine beast cultivation system. His eyes couldn't help but turn cold. "Are you guys fighting or not?" On the flying Dharma artifact, Huang Ying's patience was clearly getting worse. From the looks of it, it seems like this future sword saint, Ji Yun, wants to acknowledge this person called Tai Ching as his master? And I remember that Zhou Xian was also bowing to him just now, right? Could it be that this person called Tai Ching is more powerful than Ji Yun and Zhou Xian? At this moment, Nantian Xiang smiled playfully. If you want to watch a battle between experts, you naturally have to watch a battle between top experts. Tai Ching, fight with Zhou Xian. Show us your so-called sword Dao, sword techniques, and so on. Let us take a good look. Just as my junior sister Huang Ying said, if the battle is exciting and makes us happy, we will naturally reward you. The 6 Desires spirit cultivation technique is about to be mastered. The sword momentum is just around the corner. Chapter 635. Yes, please rest assured. We'll definitely show you everything we've learned. Zhou Xian bowed towards Huang Ying, Nan Tianxiang, and so on. At the same time, he turned towards the green ruins of the Grand Pure One again and pleaded softly, "Senior Grand Pure One, please cooperate with me and fight with me? This time, let's not use our full strength right from the start. Let's use our best moves step by step until the last moment before erupting with our strongest attack to determine the winner. I, Zhou Xian, will be eternally grateful after this." You're known as the Sword Emperor, one of the great masters of the Sword Dao on Fortune Mainland. Now that you have the opportunity to cultivate the divine beast lineage, you're giving up your own Sword Dao without hesitation? Is this your attitude towards the Sword Dao? Xing Hui turned around and looked at Zhou Xian. The disappointment on his face was even more obvious. "Senior Taishang, stop fooling around. Sword Dao? I can't deny that when I was young, I did travel thousands of mountains and rivers in search of famous masters and sword masters in pursuit of the Sword Dao. But in the end? Currently, I am already standing at the pinnacle of the Sword Dao. Even the sword saints and sword masters of the other Sword Dao holy grounds are at the same level as me. However, this so-called pinnacle of the Sword Dao is so weak in front of those prominent divine stage and true energy stage experts. Back then, I had indeed fought to a draw with a prominent divine stage expert. However, only I understand the feeling of it. If the prominent divine stage and true energy stage are already like this, then there is no need to mention the transformative stage, endless stage, and those peak experts who have cultivated their Niden. Zhou Xian's expression was a little gloomy and pained when he said this, but soon, this expression was replaced by determination. There's no future in the Sword Dao. I can't see a future when cultivating the Sword Dao. Pursuing the highest, the strongest, and longevity is the instinct of any cultivator. I can't give up longevity for a Sword Dao that has no future at all. Therefore, since there's a chance to climb to a higher realm, I won't hesitate even if I have to give up the Sword Dao that has accompanied me for more than 200 years. Xing Hui glanced at Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian might be similar to him, and perhaps he had his own reasons for not switching to the divine beast lineage, but, however, his performance this time disappointed Qing Su very much. This was a swordsman who had completely lost his sharpness. Even if he saw a new future and a new peak in the Sword Dao, he was destined to be unable to go far on the path of the Sword Dao. Are you done yet? You're blabbering on and on. Did you hear me when I told you to beat me up? My time isn't time. Do you believe that if I'm unhappy, I'll directly order people to raise your so-called Boundless Sword sect to the ground? At this time, the yellow aureole on the flying magic tool lost its patience and shouted loudly. Zhou Xian was instantly frightened to the point of trembling when he heard Huang Ying's threat. He could no longer be bothered to waste his breath on Xing Hui and shouted loudly, "We'll attack right now." Then, he turned to Xing Hui and shouted in a low voice, "Senior Grand Pure One, please, please." However, Grand Pure One Xing Hui did not even look at Zhou Xian. Instead, he turned his gaze to Ji Yun, who was still kneeling on the ground with a determined expression. "Since you want to acknowledge me as your master and learn the sword from me, then look carefully. Today, I will let you understand that when the Sword Dao reaches its peak, it can still compete with the divine beast lineage cultivation system. It can even be stronger than the divine beast lineage cultivation system." As soon as he finished speaking, his gaze turned to the people of the Grand Beginning sect who were standing on the flying magic tool and looking down from above as if they were waiting to watch a clown show. Then he raised his sword and unsheathed it. Grand Pure One Xing Hui did not use the Scarlet Abyss sword, and his own strength was slightly inferior to Xing Hui's original body. However, Xing Hui's original body was already strong enough to kill a divine being. Although Grand Pure One Xing Hui was slightly inferior to Xing Hui's original body and did not use the Scarlet Abyss divine sword, his full strength was still comparable to a golden core sovereign. As he brandished his sword, the brilliant sword light was like a rising sun that had jumped out of the horizon. The majestic sword intent that illuminated the soul swept out in a mighty manner, causing the expressions of everyone on the flying artifact to change drastically. It was as if they had fallen into a sea of fire under the scorching sun. "How dare you!" Seeing that Grand Pure One Xing Hui dared to attack the experts of the Grand Beginning sect, the leader of the younger generation, Nantian Xiang, flew into a rage. With a fierce roar, he had already soared into the air. A vast and imposing shadow appeared behind him. It was a Kuan-Peng that dominated the world and swallowed mountains and rivers. Kuan-Peng. Kuan-Peng Divine Physique. That's senior brother Tian Xiang's Kuan-Peng Divine Physique. In the past, senior brother Nantian Do did not condense a divine-grade battle physique. With the power of the Kuan-Peng Divine Physique, senior brother Tian Xiang will definitely surpass senior brother Nantian Do and become the new strongest person in our Grand Beginning sect. He might even become the strongest person among the younger generation of the Fortune Mainland's 6 supreme sections. The Green Netherworld Realm junior brothers and sisters who came with Nantian Xiang shouted excitedly when they saw the Kuan-Peng Divine Physique that Nantian Xiang had summoned. Even the true energy boundary old men behind him looked at the Kuan-Peng Divine Physique that Nantian's celestial phenomenon manifested with envy. With the Kuan-Peng Divine Physique, Nantian Xiang was destined to have a bright future. This was also the reason why they did not hesitate to follow Nantian Xiang even though they were true element boundary experts. This was an investment in their potential. Otherwise, when Nantian Xiang stepped into the true element boundary, the transformative boundary, or even the never-ending boundary, ordinary true element boundary elders like them would not be able to catch Nantian Xiang's eyes. Let me see who gave you the courage to make you lowly sword cultivators attack my Grand Beginning sect. After summoning the Kuan-Peng, the southern celestial phenomenon's aura climbed to the limit. With a deep roar, the Kuan-Peng that was so colossal that it seemed like it could devour the world and turn everything into darkness and chaos suddenly flapped its wings. With the power to distort space, it lunged towards the brilliant sword intent that the Green Ruins had conjured. It was as if the brilliant sword light of the Green Ruins of the Grand Clear lineage would be torn to shreds with a single swipe. Lowly sword Dao cultivator? Short-sighted. Who gave you the courage to say such words? A hint of anger flashed in the eyes of Xing Hui, who had been calm all this time. In the next moment, the Kuan-Peng Divine Physique, which was already burning brightly, exploded like the scorching sun at noon, shining with unprecedented brilliance. Under the cover of this brilliance, the Kuan-Peng Divine Physique was like a moth that had been thrown into a flame. Its divine physique was instantly set ablaze. No, it was not set ablaze. Instead, it was shredded into pieces by the brilliant sword qi. From an outsider's perspective, it looked like it had been set ablaze. The destruction of the Kuan-Peng Divine Physique caused Nantian Xiang to roar in shock and anger. What is this? At the same time, the broken Kuan-Peng Divine Physique flew away, trying to escape the range of the brilliant sword qi. However, at this moment, Xing Hui had already swung his sword again. The brilliant sword qi, which was like a scorching sun, crashed into the broken Kuan-Peng Divine Physique like a falling sun. In an instant, Nantian Xiang's Kuan-Peng Divine Physique was reduced to ashes. Oh no! Quick! Nantian Xiang's miserable cry rang out at the same time as the voices of the true energy realm elders who had suddenly returned to their senses. Immediately, powerful constitutions appeared one after another, lunging towards the Green Ruins of Grand Purity. Every single one of them used their full strength, and the might they possessed was enough to sweep through the clouds. The tremendous pressure made Zhou Xian, Tiyun, and all the cultivators of the Infinite Sword sect widen their eyes. However, what shocked them even more was the brilliant sword qi that Xing Hui had unleashed. Faced with the attacks of 4 true energy cultivators and 1 transformative cultivator, the Green Ruins of Grand Purity formed a sword seal. The dazzling light that resembled the sun directly split into 5, transforming into 5 strands of sword qi that blazed with divine light. The sword qi whistled through the air, incinerating space and leaving behind ripples that resembled channels in the air. They struck the bodies of the 4 true energy cultivators and 1 transformative cultivator in a single instance before piercing through and incinerating them. Even though the transcendent realm cultivator screamed and tried to use all his strength to resist the sword qi, he was powerless. He could only watch as his battle physique was destroyed by the sword chi. The true energy realm elders screamed at the same time when their battle physiques were destroyed. Some of the prominent Saint Guards were so scared that they did not dare to continue attacking. This is a battle physique. A true energy realm elder's battle physique, a transcendent realm elder's battle physique. Just how powerful is a battle physique? A single strike can be said to be devastating. Even our entire boundless sword sect might be wiped out by a single strike from this battle physique. Even half of the boundless mountain would be destroyed. But why is such a powerful battle physique so weak before this senior Grand Pure One? Sword Emperor Zhou Xian's heart trembled as he stared at the brilliant sword light that illuminated the world like an eternal sun. Ji Yun, who was still kneeling on the ground, stared at the blazing figure condensed from sword intent and sword chi. Her eyes were filled with fanaticism as if she was witnessing the descent of a god that she had dedicated herself to. This is the way of the sword. This is the way of the sword that I've pursued my entire life. Ji Yun screamed madly in her heart. But why, you actually dared to do this? The disciples of the Grand Beginning sect all paled in fright when they saw the 4 true energy realm elders, including the strongest transcendent realm elder, get their battle physiques destroyed at the same time. One of the braver ones said angrily after recovering from the shock, "How dare you destroy the battle physiques of our Grand Beginning sect's elders? Do you want to start a war with us? Our Primordial sect will never let you off." Grand Beginning sect? Sing Hui's expression returned to indifference. He glanced at Ji Yun and waved his hand. True energy wrapped around Ji Yun's body and brought him to the flying Dharma artifact where Huang Ying, Nantian Xiang, and the others were. What do you want? The old man in the transcendent state, who was the most knowledgeable among all of them, endured the pain of his body being destroyed and said with a pale face, "Everyone here is a genius disciple of the Grand Beginning sect. If you dare hurt them, the Grand Beginning sect will hunt you down until you're dead. We provoked you first today, so we can pretend that it didn't happen. But if you dare to take a mile after taking an inch, our Grand Beginning sect will let you understand the foundation of a supreme sect." Sing Hui ignored the transcendent realm elder who threatened him. Instead, he turned to Ji Yun. "Ji Yun, although I have an in-name disciple named Sing Hui, you are the first true disciple. Are you willing to be my disciple?" Ji Yun knelt down without hesitation and kowtowed respectfully. Disciple Ji Yun greets master. "Good." Sing Hui nodded indifferently. "Since you are my disciple, I will bring you to experience the tip of the iceberg of the peak of Sword Dao today." With that, he glanced at Nantian Xiang, who was still screaming in pain, and the pale-faced transcendent realm elder. "I will give you a chance to avenge your humiliation. Go to the Grand Beginning sect." Chapter 636. Go to the Grand Beginning sect? The old man, who was worried that Sing Hui would kill them all and threaten their safety, was stunned for a moment. Then, he seemed to realize something and stared at Sing Hui in disbelief. "You want to use your so-called Sword Dao to challenge our Grand Beginning sect? Activate your flying artifacts," Sing Hui said indifferently. The 3 pure ones could create 2 avatars, but these 2 avatars' personalities weren't exactly the same as the main body. For example, the Grand Pure One's personality was indifferent, but the Prime Pure One's personality was cold and fierce. However, because it was mainly influenced by Sing Hui's main body, it wasn't too obvious. "Okay, I'll activate the flying artifacts and head to the Grand Beginning sect." The transcendent old man didn't hesitate to give the order when he saw Sing Hui's words. Immediately, ordinary prominent sage stage elders took charge of controlling the flying artifacts and flew towards the Grand Beginning sect at full speed. On the flying artifacts, the fear in the eyes of Huang Ying and the other disciples of the Grand Beginning sect gradually dissipated. They looked at Sing Hui and Ji Yun with a trace of mockery and resentment. He doesn't know the difference between life and death. He really doesn't know the difference between life and death. What is he trying to do? Does he really think that his so-called Sword Dao is a match for our Grand Beginning sect's experts? Just you wait. When he arrives at our grand beginning sect, I'll definitely ask my master to personally capture and kill him. Then, I'll ruthlessly torture him and make him understand the price of offending our grand beginning sect. Huang Ying's eyes were filled with resentment. The other disciples of the grand beginning sect had similar thoughts as Huang Ying. All of them were filled with hatred. This bastard popped out of nowhere and thinks he's invincible just because he defeated 2 of our grand beginning sect's elders? He's overestimating himself by challenging our grand beginning sect. Soon, he'll pay the price for his arrogance. It seems like because of the existence of that person in the Central Plains, our grand beginning sect hasn't been spreading our teachings on the Fortune mainland, causing the world to forget about our grand beginning sect's strength. Do they think that our grand beginning sect is made of clay? After all, even that existence in the Central Plains who dared to call himself the Lord of Creation did so because our grand beginning sect wasn't willing to fight him to the point both sides suffered heavy losses. If our grand beginning sect really did utilize all our reserves, then only death would await him. Soon, he will understand what it means to regret it. With all sorts of resentment in their hearts, they quickly flew in the direction of the primeval sect. Flying artifacts were different from warships. While they pursued comfort, they also ensured speed. Therefore, the cost of production was often higher. In terms of size, this large flying artifact was comparable to a small warship. Its interior was quite spacious. In addition, its flying speed wasn't inferior to that of a blue netherworld realm expert at full speed. Xing Hui estimated that its price was comparable to a 7th or even 8th grade divine weapon. Of course, to the current Qing Su, whether it was a Class 7 or Class 8 weapon, they were all meaningless. Right now, he had specially paid a visit to the primeval sect just to create a powerful banner for Jiyun so that he could focus even more on the cultivation of the way of the sword, just in case he ended up like Zhou Xian in the future, losing his original concept of the way of the sword when he sensed that there was no path ahead. He had to bend the knee in order to obtain the method to condense a body of battle. Since Xing Hui wasn't far from the grand beginning sect and the flying artifact wasn't slow, Xing Hui had already entered the territory of the grand beginning sect after a brief understanding of Ji Yun's foundation. When he arrived at the territory of the grand beginning sect, before he could rush to the grand beginning sect's mountain gate, 2 sword lights broke through the air at an extremely fast speed. The aura of the eternal realm experts on their bodies was unreservedly vast and mighty. Its venerable Xian Sun and venerable dragon. When they saw the 2 eternal realm experts flying quickly, the disciples who were trembling in fear because of Xing Hui in the flying artifact and didn't even dare to breathe loudly became excited at the same time. Venerable Xian Sun and Venerable Dragon are famous figures in our grand beginning sect for many years. When they were young, they roamed the Fortune continent and left behind an illustrious reputation. They must have received our request for help and rushed over to protect us first in order to prevent this so-called sword Dao cultivator, Tai Qing, from harming us on the way. Great, with 2 Venerable Xian Sun here, we're safe now. Many disciples of the grand beginning sect on the flying artifact shouted excitedly. Even Nantian Xiang, who was the most talented among them, recovered a little. After his Kunpeng divine physique was destroyed, he was tactful enough to not provoke Xing Hui again. However, the feeling of his life and death being controlled by someone else was really uncomfortable. Now that the higher-ups of the grand beginning sect had finally arrived, he could finally breathe a sigh of relief. The 2 Eternal Realm experts landed on the flying artifact at the first moment. When they saw the weak Nantian Xiang and the Transcendent Elder, their faces were filled with anger. How dare you act so atrociously in our grand beginning sect's territory? This is simply preposterous. Venerable Xian Sun snorted coldly. The Venerable Dragon's gaze fell on Xing Hui, who was teaching the 2 of them as if they were nothing. How dare you provoke our grand beginning sect? You really don't know what's good for you. Today, I'll teach you a lesson on behalf of your sect's elders. I'll let you understand the consequences of offending our grand beginning sect. The Venerable Dragon was about to attack when Venerable Xian Sun reached out and stopped him. Venerable Dragon, please don't be impatient. This person can rely on his so-called sword Dao to defeat celestial phenomenon. It's clear that he has some ability. To prevent people from gossiping, we'll let him go to our Grand Beginning Sect's Mountain Gate. When the time comes, we'll ask the experts of the Grand Beginning Sect to defeat him fair and square. We'll let the world know that the dignity of our Grand Beginning Sect is not to be trifled with. The venerable dragon frowned and hesitated for a moment. In the end, he agreed. All right, as you said, I'll let him live a little longer. When we arrive at the mountain gate of the Grand Beginning Sect, we'll teach him a lesson in front of everyone. We'll let him know the consequences of offending our Grand Beginning Sect. Then, the flying magic artifact flew in the direction of the Grand Beginning Sect. Throughout the entire process, whether it was Taiching Tsinghui or Jiyun, the two of them didn't even glance in the direction of the venerable dragon. After flying for more than half a day, the mountain gate of the Grand Beginning Sect finally appeared in front of Taiching Tsinghui's eyes. After all, Taiching Tsinghui was someone who could kill a transcendent expert with a single sword strike. Although the Grand Beginning Sect was full of confidence in themselves, they wouldn't completely disregard an expert who had the ability to kill a transcendent expert. Therefore, when Tsinghui's flying magic artifact really arrived at the mountain gate of the Grand Beginning Sect, the Grand Beginning Sect had already sent dozens of true energy, transcendent, and endless experts to be on full alert. The leader was an old acquaintance of Tsinghui, Venerable Tai Heng. However, because Taiching Tsinghui was just a clone of Tsinghui, Venerable Tai Heng didn't immediately recognize him even though he was somewhat similar to Tsinghui. Elder Venerable Tai Heng, you have to avenge us. This kid dares to provoke our Grand Beginning Sect. Venerable, please teach him a lesson and let him understand the consequences of offending our sect. As soon as the flying magic artifact stopped, the Grand Beginning Sect's disciples regained their confidence and quickly ran down. They were no longer as nervous as before. They didn't even dare to speak. Don't worry. Venerable Tai Heng nodded slightly at the disciples and glanced at Nantian Xiang. I heard your divine body was destroyed. Go back and recuperate. Our Grand Beginning Sect will get justice for you. No one has ever dared to humiliate our Grand Beginning Sect like this. Venerable, there's no rush. I'd like to see what happens to this arrogant person who dares to provoke our Grand Beginning Sect. Venerable Tai Heng didn't mind. Then you can watch from the side. As soon as he finished speaking, his gaze descended onto Qing Su as well. However, before he could speak, Tsinghui said indifferently, all the experts of the Grand Beginning Sect are here? There should be more than that. Who are you, Venerable One? Aren't you looking down on our Grand Beginning Sect with such arrogance? Venerable Tai Heng stepped forward with a reprimanding expression. Jiyun, watch carefully. Even though my sword Dao hasn't reached the true peak, it's enough to show you the tip of the iceberg. Remember what I've taught you. I hope you can reach my current level as soon as possible. With that, Tsinghui didn't waste any more words with Venerable Tai Heng and the others. He suddenly unsheathed his sword, and the dazzling sword light turned into a blazing sun. It immediately lit up the space before the Grand Beginning Sect. You, Venerable Tai Heng's face flashed with anger when he saw Tsinghui attack. How bold of you to draw your sword in front of our Grand Beginning Sect. Venerables Xianri and Along, capture this arrogant person first. Ha, we should have done this long ago. Venerable Xianri and Along laughed loudly. They leapt into the air at the same time and manifested their battle forms. The two ferocious-looking spiritual beasts immediately roared and swept up vast amounts of energy of the world towards the blazing sun in the sky. Waves of attacks swept out as if they wanted to tear the sword light to pieces. The great purity of Qing Su's style of doing things tended to be direct and direct. When the two never-ending experts, Venerable Xian Sun and Venerable Great Dragon, manifested their battle forms, the sword in his hand moved. The brilliant sword light manifested in the air, creating two blazing shadows that viciously slashed at the two venerables. Even though the true chi and strength contained in the sword light wasn't particularly strong, the sword intent within the sword chi followed the battle forms of the two venerables and directly shone into their souls. Immediately, The two never-ending experts' mental worlds seemed to be pierced through by a blazing sword light. The divine beast souls condensed from a large amount of mental energy were even shredded to pieces by the sword chi that slashed into their mental worlds. With their souls crushed, their manifested battle forms naturally couldn't be maintained. In the eyes of the crowd, the battle forms of the great ceaseless experts were like snow exposed to the blazing sun. The moment they came into contact with the two blazing sword lights, they completely collapsed and retreated on the spot. Ugh. Venerable Xianri and Along De Long screamed as their divine beasts' souls were crushed. Venerable Tai Heng, who had always regarded Xing Hui with great importance, immediately paled when he saw this scene. Not good. This child's battle prowess is at least on par with a golden core expert. Elders, attack with me. As he spoke, his battle form also manifested. Behind him, dozens of true energy, tranquility, and ceaseless experts also manifested their battle forms. For a moment, the shadows of powerful spiritual beasts and divine beasts roared madly, stirring up the wind and clouds. Powerful auras wantonly filled the air, causing the ki in front of the primeval sect to become chaotic. With dozens of true energy, tranquility, and ceaseless experts attacking together, even a true golden core expert would have to avoid their sharpness. Unfortunately, Xing Hui's strength couldn't be measured by the golden core realm, especially when he focused on using his sword intent to kill his enemies. As the blazing sword lights carried an indomitable aura into the dozens of true energy, tranquility, and ceaseless experts of the primeval sect, it was like a falling sun had crashed into the ground. Countless rays of light and heat erupted, instantly illuminating the many spiritual beasts and divine beasts in front of the primeval sect. Swish! The blazing sword intent visible to the naked eye spread out like a shockwave with Xing Hui at the center. The true energy, tranquility, and ceaseless experts' battle forms were like sand sculptures in the face of a wave, collapsing with a single blow. Chapter 637. Sword Dao. Sword Dao. This is the Sword Dao that I've been pursuing all my life. Ji Yun looked at her master, who was like a blazing sun in the sky, suppressing Grand Supreme. Her expression was filled with excitement and madness. At this moment, Xing Hui seemed to have turned into a true blazing sun. Whether it was the true energy realm, transcendent realm, endless realm, or even the core formation realm grand elders, anyone who joined the battle was like a moth to a flame. They were unable to cause any ripples and were directly ground to pieces by the blazing sword light. Be it battle constitutions, immortal arts, or all offensive methods and weapons, as long as they approached the range of the sword intent and sword chi formed by the green ruins of grand purity, they would all be shattered into pieces by the sword light that shone like the sun. Powerful sword intent constantly radiated into the surroundings from the Grand Prime's green ruins. It was like a domain that could never be crossed. No matter how many people from the Grand Prime sect came down, they all died. Those who stubbornly tried to continue attacking had their souls directly slain. Sword intent. This was the power of sword intent. Perhaps the sword chi contained in the blazing sword light wasn't very strong, and its offensive power was at most equivalent to an attack from a normal battle constitution. However, the sword intent contained within was so terrifying that it destroyed all who came in contact with it. Even the hostile gazes of some primeval sect disciples that were staring at Xing Hui in the air could trigger a counterattack from the sword intent. The counterattack was through the dazzling sunlight that directly shone on their mental world, making it seem like their mental world was being burned. The pain and damage from this burning far exceeded that of burning flesh. Countless primeval sect disciples howled in pain. How can this be? How can this be? How can this person be so powerful? Nantian Xiang looked at the blazing sun in the sky above the primeval sect's mountain gate, his eyes filled with disbelief. At this moment, the battle constitutions of Venerable Taiheng, Venerable Xiansun, and Venerable Dragon had already been destroyed by the sword intent. It wasn't just them. The several dozen true energy realm, transcendent realm, and endless realm grand elders who had rushed over had also followed in their footsteps. Powerful battle constitutions would often unleash sword chi the moment they were about to attack. It was clearly an ordinary sword chi, but once it struck the battle constitutions of the primeval sect's true energy realm, transcendent realm, endless realm, and core formation realm grand elders, their battle constitutions would crumble like fragile sand sculptures. The primeval sect disciples all widened their eyes in disbelief. Senior brother Nantian Do is here. It's senior brother Nantian Do. At this moment, the disciples cheered. Nantian Do, the #1 genius of the primeval sect who had clashed with Tsing Hui during the Fortune Festival, and a dozen true energy realm, transcendent realm, endless realm, and core formation realm grand elders quickly arrived. Nantian Do's expression immediately changed when he saw the green ruins of the Sky Dao sect that had suppressed the entire sect and even caused the elders of the sect to be heavily injured and even perish. He shouted with a grim voice, "Set up the formation. We'll use the energy of the formation to destroy his lethal move." It's useless. The combat prowess of the person before us isn't strong. His true strength lies in his sword intent. Once we cultivators step into the realm of spirit and chi as one, our true essence and soul energy will form a connection. Thus, as long as we come into contact with his sword intent, he'll immediately follow the soul energy within and slash into our spiritual world, severely injuring our souls. The pale-faced Venerable Taiheng smiled wryly. We won't be injured as long as we don't attack. Once we attack and come into contact with his sword intent, we won't be able to escape the fate of heavily injuring our souls. This, Nantian Do's expression changed. His sword intent is too powerful. I can't imagine how a cultivator can be so powerful just by relying on his sword intent. This is unprecedented, Venerable Taiheng said with a pale face. To the side, Huang Ying couldn't accept this outcome. She shook her head repeatedly. No, that can't be. He's just a lowly sword cultivator. How can he be a match for the powerful primeval sect? As one of the 6 supreme sects, as long as we're willing to give it our all, even the Lord of Creation of the Central Plains isn't our match. How can we not deal with a mere sword cultivator? Senior brother Nantian Do, you're the most outstanding genius of the primeval sect. You can definitely defeat him, can't you? Can't you? Nantian Do glanced at Huang Ying. He had some impression of this junior sister of his, but he really didn't know how to respond to her. The primeval sect could defeat the Lord of Creation of the Central Plains if they gave it their all? That was just the primeval sect flattering themselves. The closer they got to the Lord of Creation's realm, the more they understood how terrifying a supreme existence who had cultivated a divine ability was. If the Lord of Creation of the Central Plains really wanted to destroy the primeval sect, even the primeval sect and the other supreme sects wouldn't be able to resist. This was also the reason why the primeval sect's members had immediately retracted their little tricks when they learned that the Lord of Creation had returned to the Fortune mainland. So, this is an expert we can't fight against. At this time, a voice suddenly sounded from behind the primeval sect. It was filled with helplessness and exhaustion. It's the sect ancestor. The primeval sect's sect ancestor. When they saw the old man coming from behind the primeval sect, a wave of exclamations erupted from the crowd. Sect ancestor, we, Honorable Taiheng, Honorable Xian Ri, Honorable Great Dragon, and the others came to the sect ancestor's side. Their faces were filled with guilt. This kid has cultivated his sword intent to the pinnacle. Coupled with the strength of his divine sense, we can't resist his sword intent at all. Anyone who attacks him will be met with a thunderous counterattack from his sword intent. We can't suppress him. The primeval sect ancestor looked at Tsing Hui, who was blocking the entrance of the primeval sect, and a trace of sorrow flashed through his eyes. What was going on with the Fortune mainland recently? First, the Lord of Fortune, Dong Yang, had appeared out of nowhere and suppressed the Fortune mainland with his almighty strength. The 6 supreme sects had no choice but to submit to him and respect him as the Lord of Fortune. Now, the matter of Dong Yang had yet to be resolved, and a peerless sword expert named Tai Ching had appeared. His sword intent was so strong that it was unprecedented. Tai Ching had yet to kill, but if he wanted to kill, he would need to gather his sword intent and slash out with his sword. Who in the primeval sect would be able to stop him? Even those grand elders who had lived for thousands of years and whose spiritual force was not inferior to Golden Core Realm cultivators would be unable to avoid the fate of having their divine sense destroyed. When he thought up to that point, the Grand Prime could only wave his hand. Immediately, all the experts of the Grand Prime who were lunging towards the Grand Prime's green ruins retreated. They were all gloomy and dejected. The reason they were so fearless in killing this peerless expert named Grand Pure One was because they did not want to embarrass the primeval sect. They did not want others to say that the primeval sect did not come out when the enemy came knocking on their door. On the other hand, Grand Pure One did not kill them. As long as they retreated after suffering heavy injuries, Grand Pure One would not pursue them and kill them. This gave them the courage to attack him again and again. But the final result did not change at all. Moths flying into a flame. The experts of the primeval sect were like moths flying into a flame. No matter how many came, they would all die. No one could resist Grand Pure One's brilliant sword intent. As the experts of the primeval sect dispersed, the primeval sect ancestor came before Tsing Hui and bowed slightly. The primeval sect's Shi Xuanji greets the Grand Pure One Swordmaster. Grand Pure One Swordmaster? Tsing Hui's brilliant sword radiance retracted a little and revealed Grand Pure One Tsing Hui's figure. The Grand Pure One Swordmaster's sword intent suppressed the primeval sect. No one in the primeval sect could do anything to him. This sword Dao is unprecedented. No one in the entire Fortune continent can compare to it. He can be called the Supreme Sword Dao. The primeval sect ancestor said sincerely, "Swordmaster, the primeval sect is not continuing?" Grand Pure One said indifferently, "Not continuing. Admitting defeat." Shi Xuanji paused for a moment. Even though he was unwilling to face this reality, he had no choice but to lower his head and reply in humiliation. The primeval sect admits defeat. No, this is not real, this is not real. Huang Ying and the others, who had boundless confidence in the primeval sect, felt as if their beliefs had completely collapsed at this moment. They screamed crazily and could not accept this reality at all. The Grand Pure One Tsing Hui swept a glance at Huang Ying and the others. Without needing to say anything, the primeval sect ancestor Xuanji had already turned to Huang Ying and the others and shouted, "How dare you offend the Grand Pure One Sword Master? You really don't know your place. Xuanri, take them away and punish them severely." The Xuanri Swordmaster recalled how arrogant and despotic he was when he first met the Grand Pure One Tsing Hui and felt extremely guilty at this moment. However, he had no choice but to obey the orders of the primeval sect ancestor. He could only reply, "Yes." Then, he brought the devastated Huang Ying and the others and left quickly. "Tiyun, did you see that?" The Grand Pure One Tsing Hui did not bother with the primeval sect ancestor anymore. Instead, he turned to Ji Yun behind him and said, "I saw it. The 6 supreme sects are only SOSO. It's not that your sword Dao is not strong, but you're too weak. As long as your sword Dao is high enough, the 6 supreme sects will still submit to your sword." Ji Yun looked at the Xuanri Swordmaster, whose brilliant sword intent was above her, and her eyes were filled with fanaticism. "I understand. Since you understand, then let's go." After the Grand Pure Swordmaster finished speaking, he did not look at the primeval sect ancestor Xuanji anymore. He took Ji Yun and flew up on his sword. Under the confused gazes of the elders and disciples of the primeval sect, he flew through the air and disappeared into the horizon in the blink of an eye. He left? Shi Xuanji watched the Grand Pure One leave on his sword and did not react for a while. What, he left just like that? He thought that the Grand Pure One Tsing Hui would make some outrageous demands after subduing the primeval sect. But now, what's going on? What's the purpose of this sword cultivator called the Grand Pure One attacking the primeval sect? Why did he leave before he achieved his goal? Shi Xuanji was confused. This, on the other hand, the transcendent elder who followed Nantian Xiang and witnessed the entire development seemed to have understood something. He could not help but reveal a bitter expression. I'm afraid that this peerless swordsman called the Grand Pure One did not have any ulterior motives for attacking the primeval sect. His goal might be to test the sword. Test the sword? All the elders looked at the transcendent state elder. Yes, test the sword. The transcendent realm old man laughed bitterly and said, "Our conflict with this peerless swordsman called Tai Ching was mainly because that disciple called Huang Ying repeatedly asked Tai Ching to compete with the sect master of the Boundless Sword sect, a sword cultivator called Zhou Xian, and demonstrate various sword techniques for her to watch. Because Huang Ying's words were too extreme, it might have caused Tai Ching to be dissatisfied in his heart, so he took it seriously. Thus, what happened next was seen by all the elders. What happened next? The elders were shocked and enraged when they heard this. They naturally saw what happened next. Just as Huang Ying said, Xing Hui attacked the primeval sect and used the brilliant sword he had comprehended to suppress the primeval sect with his sword. Countless true energy, transcendent, endless, and even core formation elders of the primeval sect could not raise their heads. In the end, they had no choice but to admit defeat and beg for forgiveness from the Grand Pure One Swordmaster. An unexpected calamity. An unexpected calamity. This was an unexpected calamity from beginning to end. Damn it, I thought something big had happened to force such a peerless swordsman to attack our primeval sect, but it turns out that we primeval sect disciples brought this upon ourselves. Where is that disciple called Huang Ying? Where did she go? She brought disaster to our sect and brought shame to our primeval sect. She must be punished severely. That's right, a disciple like her who only brings disaster to the sect should be killed. The elders who knew the truth were shocked and enraged. After this battle, their primeval sect had lost all face. Punishment, of course, we must punish her. However, when you return, you should restrain your disciples and juniors. The primeval sect ancestor looked in the direction Xing Hui had left with an indescribable loneliness in his eyes. The situation on the Fortune mainland is already different. The era that belonged to our 6 supreme sects has become history. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.